Oh, yeah.
November 17th, getting close to Thanksgiving, right? I'd like to welcome each of you to our council meeting tonight, and customary to do business that haven't been here before. We have a pledge of allegiance, and we will have our invocation. So if you please join us as we rise, our call on Council Pruitt, leaders in our praise, and I'd like to ask your blessing as you have our invocation. Mr. Pruitt.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Benson.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this evening. We thank you for this opportunity, Lord, to come together and assemble over the business of the city of McDonough. We ask that you will bless each and every person present. We ask that you will endow us with wisdom, and we invoke your presence here on this evening. As we move into the holiday season, Lord, we ask that you will bless those who are less fortunate, and that you will move upon the hearts of those of us who can serve and encourage us to serve. Lord, we thank you for the services of our city administrator, and we ask that your blessings will go with him as he moves forward. In Jesus' precious and mighty name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Lord. Thank you so much. All the 99-cent glasses. Ladies and gentlemen, we're down to item number 4. If you have a copy of our agenda in the back of the room. And Janice, you need to follow me on this, please. Yes, sir. Approval of the agenda. Move down, I want to add 7A. Open government presentation, Mr. Ryan Arnett. And that's on, I'm going to omit number 9 and move to 7A. Green card. Okay? Let's move over to community development on this page, A, rezoning, and B. We moved on to we'll put those out on the December the 4th workshop and on the 12/15 regular meeting for public hearing. A and B. We've eliminated number 9 and moved down to 12. I want to pull the personnel from the executive session, and I want to eliminate personnel. Move real estate to 12A, OCGA 50-14-3B1. And the last thing, I want to add 15A, review of city administrator hiring process, Paul Tuck. Did I get them all, Jim?
And we're leaving litigation for executive session
That's
at
correct.
16.
And another, we'll have two sessions. Okay?
Yes, sir, you got it all.
All right, entertain a motion. Have a second?
Second.
And a second. Any questions? Hearing none, Ms. Price, please restate the motion and the second.
The motion is to approve tonight's agenda with the following amendments. We will add 7A, the open government presentation with Mr. Ryan Arnett. We will make that 7A, plus omitting item number 9, number 8A and 8B, both of the community development items. They will be postponed to the workshop of December the 4th, and then the public hearing will be held on December the 17th. Going on down the agenda, we will have 12A added as executive session for real estate, which is OCGA 50-14-3B1. Then we will add 15A, which is a review of the city administrator's hiring process.
Anybody have any questions?
I just have one
Yes,
question,
ma'am.
Mayor, and Ms. Janice is probably right. I had written down 12/15. Is the date 12/15 or
Oh, I
12/17?
might have said wrong there.
I'm just trying to confirm whether it's the 15th or the 17th for the meeting. 12-4 is the workshop.
Right. I had 12-15.
I misspoke, sorry.
So it's 12-15.
12:15,
Hey,
for the regular meeting.
Okay, folks, you heard the reading of the motion second this time, and I suggest we all cast our vote. And?
7 in favor, Mayor.
Thank you so much. Okay, members of the council, you will see approval of consent agenda, 3 items, A, B, and C. Having said that, I entertain the motion the consent agenda to be approved. So, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions? Hearing none, Ms. Price, we have a motion and second on the floor. Please share that with us.
The motion is to approve the 3 items, A, B, and C, for the consent agenda tonight.
Okay, would you please vote, council person?
7 in favor, Mayor.
Thank you so much. And if you will follow us along, Ms. Tappan? Oh, yeah. Got some recognition of some of our graduates of the 101, so we'll give you an opportunity, Tappan, to share this information. What a great year you had in this class, and some wonderful people. So you have the floor, man.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mayor and Council. We have a couple of the graduates here tonight, but on August 12th, we started the McDonough 101 classes for 2014, and we had 13 students to graduate on October 21st. And we have 2 of those students here, Mr. Sy and Miss Virginia, if they don't mind standing. Those are 2 of our graduates, so I would like to give them a hand for being here. And I would like to ask, since they're here, if we have a few moments, if they would like to say anything about the program.
I'd just like to say that I totally 100% enjoyed the one-on-one class from me, the mayor, on down to Fred Gardner, and just the different departments, from the fire department, the police department, and water work. We just totally enjoyed it. This gives us an eye-opener of what's going on and the importance of all the departments. And I was talking to one of my coworkers, and I was saying that now I can speak intelligently about what's going on in the city. And I just thank everybody for participating and allowing the class to be. And I just thank we really enjoyed everything, and the class was so motivating and inspiring. And I just thank you for that.
Ms. Brown, thank you. Thank you for being a part.
I'm sorry. It's so difficult to echo what Virginia ever has to say. She's so much important and so all-encompassing. But I just want to augment that by saying that my experience is very good comparatively, because I had some experience in another city council, and I wanted to see what it looks like on a smaller scale. And it is so refreshing to see that they're so much on the board, but they're in good hands, good administration, from the top right down. And it was I know what buttons to push now. I always have a quick to end it, so I want to thank you.
That's our third year, ladies and gentlemen. What a wonderful class it has been. This is the last group. We've all had an opportunity to meet with these. We've had a nice graduated and enjoyed that. Thank you all. Thank you, Si. Thank you, Ms. Brown. Ms.
Mayor
Lewis.
Copeland,
Yes,
can I just say
Oh, yes,
something
ma'am.
real quick?
Yes, ma'am.
Because our city administrator is rapidly leaving us. The time is growing short. So I just wanted to, again, commend him for taking the reins of this vision and manifesting it here in McDonough. I know when I first came, I started talking about Citizen University, which is what we do at Fulton County. But when you came, you talked about what they did in the previous city where you served, and you really got us to embrace the vision of McDonough 101, and that just speaks volumes of where you have taken us and how you have evolved us from a group of individuals with ideas to a city that's actually manifesting things that are changing our community in ways that are even intangible. So I appreciate you. It's not the last time I'm going to say something tonight, and I'm going to try not to cry, but you have just taken us light speeds ahead in the 2 years that you've been here. So I appreciate you so much.
We appreciate those comments. This is absolutely all the truth. All of the truth. Item number 7, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not Lauren Singleton. I am Billy Copeland, what's left. There's 2 young ladies here that are near and dear to McDonough, near and dear to this city, and near and dear to me personally. And Lauren asked me at the last meeting if I would kind of recognize them in a special way. Last year, John Wheat called me in conjunction with a scarecrow contest. What in the world is a scarecrow contest? And I said, well, it just sounds like a beautiful idea. It's unique. And we had 67 interests this year, for the second year. I think it was 107. Actually, I think we ended up with like 120. The son said, you know, we'd have some duplications. All the years I've been at City Hall, and I told Joan this, and I told Susan this, I have never seen an activity that created any more conversation, any more activity to the downtown square than this 2014 Scarecrow Contest. It was awesome. I also told Joan when I made the presentation to the winner, Gloria had decided who the winner would be. She's light years ahead of me. We talked about the bowl out here, the bowling thing across the courthouse. I never could quite understand the creativity there, but Gloria did. And she said, Billy, that's going to be the one. Every time that I would ride by, they were always photographing that. And so I told John that day, I said, you won't believe Gloria predicted that they would be the one. But it's just not intended what the economic boost was to the square. Now, Rita's probably was out of water because they sold so much frozen drinks. It's just absolutely unreal. But it was an opportunity for everybody to enjoy a wonderful time. It lasted about 4 weeks, ladies and gentlemen, as you know. And I recall last year I was running for office, and when they had the 67, I told John, on Sunday night, we were up at headquarters, and people walk around the square all the time. This time it's just an absolutely marvelous event. They're already looking for a little different slant for 2015, and of course we're going to be here to help them and assist them in it. But it was an awesome activity. As I said, I've never seen one that created any more interest, and people from all over Henry County, McDonough, and other surrounding counties came to see what was going on in McDonough. And on top of that, you know, we have this Georgia team pageant, this Georgia U.S. State pageant coming up starting Thursday night, Friday, and Saturday. Huge event. Councilman Elrod and Gia Bukowski and a few others have put that together. And Thursday night we'll be meeting with the Miss Georgia USA at Eagles Landing. Thomas Smith will be there at noon over at Hampton for Miss Georgia team. 3 motels were already sold out 3 weeks ago when they were here. Sold out again today, and the economic impact, council members, has been estimated at over $500,000. So small town McDonough, we didn't think when Craig and Thomas Smith and I met earlier this year, when we met with Kim Greenwood, we had no hope that we would pull it from Cartersville. And the next thing I know, they came here, went to Macon, they rolled out the red carpet, whatever. And they called Craig and said, you know, we'd like to come to McDonough. So we just said, okay. So it's going to be a big event here this weekend. It too will be something that will change maybe McDonough. So for your information, we have a 3-year contract. And it's just going to be a wonderful event. It has nothing to do with Scarecrow Contest. So ladies, if you please come forward, I'd like to present to you this certificate, this John Wheat garden, these two ladies, secret garden, and they just make it done. City of McDonough presents this certificate to appreciate Joan Weaver for coordinating the successful 2014 Scarecrow Contest Monday, November 17, 2014. Joan, thank you so much. And this young lady right beside her, equal as well, I'm not gonna read the description, Susan, but I can't thank you enough. And what a difference you make, and the creativity in Henry County and McDonough is just beyond recognition. It's just, everything's just so different. And I'm gonna give you a chance to say a few words.
Thank you.
You and Susan.
You know, gee, we just appreciate this so much. It's not that often that you hear really nice things said about you. So thank everybody very, very much. And as much as Susie and I would like to take all of the credit for the success of this particular project, that's not the way it works. I personally, and Susie will join me in this, I'm sure, have to thank everyone that helped with this. The Main Street, Laura and Kathy, I don't know what we would have done without them. All of the merchants that sponsored the program, and most of all, just the merchants all around the area. Because I don't know if you were aware of this, we had over $2,000 given to us in gifts and gift certificates that we were able to pass on to people that came out and voted at the Scarecrow Contest. So it wasn't just Susie and I. We enjoyed the project, but you know, it was the support of everyone else that made it so successful. And we just want to thank everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much. Yes.
This presentation we're going to do, we're actually remote next presentator into the city from California or Brisbane. From California. Okay.
Okay, Mr. Carter, let's see your magic.
And basically what this is, Mayor Council, is this is another way of us being able to present, because we talk about transparency in government, and the way we operate, and the way we present data and information to our citizens and business investors. This program will give us the ability to put a lot of our budget information in different format. It's easier, much easier than the one we got it for folks to understand and run their own analysis from their home or from anywhere in the world if they so choose to, and be able to look at it. So some of the recent cities that have actually participated in this, Dunwoody is just signed on. I think there are about 4 or 5 other cities and counties in Georgia that have actually started implementing the same program. As a way of being able to present their financial information out to the public in a more transparent way. So hopefully we can get this kicked off. We tested earlier today and it worked.
Oh, you're stand by. We're good. Ryan, you're on.
Hey everybody, sorry I can't be there to present in front of you. I just got back from a trip from Florida, but I'm happy that we can sit here and kind of walk through. I heard Fred's initial kind of intro, and I'm just going to take it off. Feel free to stop me at any point if anybody has questions along the way. And I just want to confirm that everybody can see my screen right now. Is that accurate?
We can, Ryan. We surely can.
Fantastic. Well, that's great. So just a quick backstory. OpenGov is now working with about 185 different governments across 31 states. We initially started as a kind of a way to, in California, to help the state during the budget crisis, and it was a not-for-profit that had been formed. And we quickly realized that there was obviously a scale for a lot of other government organizations across the country. So from there, we've been financed by one of the best firms here in Northern California to invest in the engineering and the software technology to build this out. So quickly, if anybody ever has a chance, feel free to come to our website, opengov.com. We have a handful of governments that are live that you're able to take a look at the sites that we've created for them. So feel free to do that. You can see a number of them right here. What I wanted to start out by walking through is just a quick overview of the service in action. And just to kind of, I guess, reiterate Fred's point, OpenGov was designed essentially as a web-based platform to help communicate financial and budget information more effectively, whether it be to staff, elected officials, and even citizens. You'll notice that it does save a tremendous amount of time for internal management reporting, for presentations regarding financial information. And even if you get some of these external information requests from citizens, it's a really great tool to be able to answer those quickly without having to dig into a finance system. So 2 ways, again, you could use this, I think, for transparency as well as the public, but also for that internal reporting and getting quick access. This is the site that we have created for the city of Palo Alto. You can see that it's accessible right here at paloalto.opengov.com. So it's as easy as dropping a link directly onto your site and then driving them to the site that's customized, for McDonough, for example. We can look at a number of different views in here. So right now we're looking at the annual view, and we can look at expenses broken out by departments, which is their default setting. But we can look at revenues broken out by revenue types. And since we're hosting this information, you're going to see it's going to move tremendously fast. We can do the same thing whether you're logged in at home or whether you're sitting in front of the office computer. It's going to move just as lightning quick. So imagine being able to pull this up in a meeting similar to what you have now and being able to go through and answer questions about where money's coming in, where it's going out. In this case, Palo Alto has shown 5 years at the bottom, historical data. So everything from 2008, 2009 to 2013. They put their 14 budget and their 15 adopted budget. You can actually hover over each one of these different departments right here, and you can see to the left-hand side of the screen pop up. You can see how much they've actually budgeted, or actually spent in this case, going all the way back to 2008, 2009, and what is the percentage of overall budget that is, all the way up till the adopted budget in 15, you can see the percent change from year to year. Now, even just having the surface level view would be nice, but in this case, we can drill down into any one of these different departments and gain further information. So if I had a question about police spending, I can actually click into police, and now I'm looking at all the different divisions. So I can see field services, technical services, investigations. And I don't want to beat a dead horse, but since this is not cookie cutter, and this would be customized to your chart of accounts, it would look like your city's layout. So, I'm going to continue to drill down into this into field services. And if I wanted to gain even further access, I can always at any time flip over and look at the expense types within each one of these different divisions or programs. So I'm looking at field service, I can see salaries and benefits. And I can answer those questions on the fly if I wanted to. I can look at overtime salaries. Now I just did this for one specific department, but I could do this for any one and drill in continuously, like fire, flip it over to expense type, and see the exact same type of metrics in the fire department. And you can see it in graphical view, but you can always drill down below. You can see that we have a view table button here. The raw data is always going to be down below every single graph. So as you click through it, you're still going to be able to automatically see all the financial data below the graph, and it's going to change as you're clicking through the graphs as well. So jumping back, I'm just going to reset this to the landing page, but you can look at this again as a line graph. You can see a pie graph. Due to popular demand by our clients, we made it automatically pull out the financial information, the percentages of budget. So you can download this right into an image. You could download the graph below into an image, and you can put this right into a presentation if you wanted to. You can come back and you can go look at historical years. And again, just as I showed you earlier, you can continue to drill down into any one of these different departments the same way that we did earlier. We also have the ability to come in and do a bar graph. So there's different views. Whatever you see as the most beneficial for your group, you certainly can do that. You can also share this. So any view in our system has the ability to either be shared on a social network, or you can even put this right into an email. So I'm just going to think of a very quick scenario. Someone comes in and you have a public request that someone says, hey, I want to know how much you're spending in non-departmental expenses. Well, you could come into non-departmental here. Again, flip this over to expense type. And I can either share this by email, or I can copy this, and I can send it to anybody, and it's going to take them directly to the view that you're looking at right here. So every view in the system is unique, and you can answer questions really quickly just by copying and pasting the link. Let me stop there and see if there's any questions on the floor.
Anyone? Red?
No, sir, just,
Go ahead. Continue, Ryan.
Continue. Okay, great. What's also nice is you have the ability to come in and search through the chart of accounts. So this is going to be customized to your chart of accounts, but it's almost like what I call an index. So if you're looking for something very specific, you could come in here, you could break this out, and you could simply click on something. So we have our funds and our sub-funds here, the departments, the divisions, and even the programs listed down below. Expense or revenue types. See all the various expense and revenue types. But I could come in here, let's just say I was looking for general fund expenses. You can actually just come in here and search and say, I'm looking for the general fund. You click on that and you can see the graph to the right immediately displays general fund expenses. So for the current year, for the annual year, what's great is you have the ability to kind of look year to year. As you guys are going through that budget process, department heads can actually look and see what's happened, previously in other years. You can actually load projected budget views in here if you wanted to. We have some folks that will load them to even 3 years in the future. It's solely dependent upon you. But the nice thing is you have the flexibility to control the data that's being shown, whether it be publicly or privately. So you can make reports that are maybe only internal, that go maybe all the way down to the transaction level, whereas maybe to the public you want to go down to the object level or 2 layers deep. So you all have the ability to control that. I think Fred had mentioned the city of Alpharetta is a client. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't, but this is the site that Alpharetta's created. This is their landing page. They provided some context as to, this provides our customers with annual revenue, expenditure data. So, no different. You can kind of set this up very similarly if you wanted to. You can see that, their departments are going to be broken out a little bit differently. But just to give you another example here, they've even hung their 2015 budget book on here as well. Jumping over, I pulled up Rockport, Texas. They are a city on the coast of Texas. They were the first ones, I think, in the state of Texas to win a Platinum Award in transparency. And the current year operates a little bit differently than the annual, but what's nice is you can look at budget to actuals month over month. So you can see that they've loaded a couple of historical years of data, but it adds an additional data point right here. So what you're looking at is each department, and this is through what they've spent through the month of August of 2014. So for example, I can see that Public Works has spent about $8.5 million up through August. And then I can see what they had actually budgeted for. So this is what they've actually spent through August. This is what they budgeted to spend through August. And then this is what they had spent through August in years past. So you can get a very quick understanding of how much each department is spending, month over month. And at the bottom here, I'm going to pull the summary table up. It automatically is going to calculate this actual versus budget variance. So you can quickly get a high-level overview of each department, where they are they over, under budget, and if you wanted to drill down into a department quickly, you could do so. So I can see here municipal court as an example is about 14% over budget. I could click into municipal court, as I've done earlier, flip this over to expense type, and now see all the areas where they may have gone over under budget. In this case, they've gone over personnel. So with a couple clicks, I can immediately see that they were 74% over budget due to a FICA expense. They went over in overtime. But each department had to have the ability to sit at home, on their couch and look at the same exact type of data and compare themselves to other departments if they wanted to. The council could do the same thing, but you have this access to drill in as far down and look at it month over month, even revert back to previous months. And this drop down allows you to go back to months previous. I could go to July, I could look at June altogether.
Ryan?
Yes.
Hi, this is one of the council persons. I have a question. I'm just really fascinated by the different metrics that I've seen so far. But in terms of a data integration, is there a direct integration with our system, or is this manual data entry?
Great question. So what we would do, and based on, we've worked with all types of accounting systems or finance systems. It's essentially at the very beginning, we would pull basically a CSV or an Excel file from your accounting system, as well as your chart of accounts, and we would map it out to that. So you could load as much historical data, but it's a very simple download. And then month over month, we have made basically a control panel that is super easy to use. So you could, if you wanted to, at the end of each month when the books close, you want the most recent data, you could either do one of two things. You could come in and you could upload your own data, and it takes literally a minute or a couple minutes, 5 minutes tops to load a new data set in here. Or you could simply send it to us and we'll load that for you. We found a lot of clients like to go in and update, upload it on their own because it's just that easy, and then they can start adding in other data sets to visualize, maybe just internally. And maybe sometimes they want to put that out for the public, but just to answer your question, first, this is what the file looks like. I'm just going to pull a monthly data set. It's as simple as this. So this is the control panel on the back end that you would have access to, but it shows, for example, the amount, funds, the departments, and the account stream. This is a very standard report that gets pulled. So ongoing, you can simply just save that report, come in here, and we've made it into basically a couple-step wizard. So if you did choose to upload it on your own, this is how simple it really is. You say monthly, you upload the file, it maps your columns, it identifies your codes. If there's a code that's off, maybe it was input incorrectly, or you've added a new, something new to your chart of accounts, it'll let you go in and address it right there. You click review, you click finish, and it's there. That's how easy it is. So we don't integrate with your accounting system because we don't have to get behind a firewall. But this also allows us to get up and running within about 2 weeks. Once we have that data from you, we can build a site. We can create the site within 2 weeks and have you all live. So the amount of internal resources necessary is very, very small. Almost next to nothing.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. It's a good question. While I'm on here, I'll show you. This is an example of a report that is just internal, so it's just their organization. And this is a fictitious city that I'm in, the city of Gotham. But yeah, I know. I didn't choose it, but it works. But you also have the ability to come in here and maybe make something private or make it public. Now, we just rolled out, and since Fred and I have spoken, we briefly talked about it. But you can come in and you can actually change data sets. So I could come in here, and any of the data sets that I've loaded, I could take some out, add some in. So as you're doing projections or you're going through that budget process, you can start loading some of that data and look at it all together in the same place. You can see how quickly it addresses this data. You can, but I think one major thing that we've done is we've also put annotations in here. So if you choose to, hey, I do want to put this behind, put this in the public-facing view, you can actually add annotations in here, so it gives a little bit more context to the story. So, I hear a lot of cities that say, hey, we love this idea, we love putting it out there, but hey, we have a big spike, or we have a big decrease, or we were pulling from reserves, and it kind of switched over for the last couple of years or the last couple of months. Well, now you have the ability to put these little annotations throughout the presentation, and then if somebody clicks into it, you can write in a little bit more context as to why something may be increased or something decreased. So it kind of bridges the story. And this is how easy it is to make things private or public. It's simply just a button that you click that says this is public, this is private. And you may have a couple folks on staff that are going to be administrators that kind of control this, or maybe one person. It's entirely up to you. But you can make up a lot of different modifications. You can even change some of the labels in here as well.
It's Sandra again. You just mentioned administrator, so is that the methodology that's used for controlling the integrity of the data? Is it
That's
controlled
absolutely
through
correct.
access?
That's absolutely correct. So you may give every single person in the city access, and there's no additional fee for that. As many users as you want can have access to this. But you may just have somebody that's a little bit more familiar with changing data in and out, or maybe, someone perhaps in the city manager's office or the finance person. It's entirely up to you, but you can make as many administrators. But we usually suggest to keep it relatively low, so only the people that you want changing data in and out are going to be doing so, that are maintaining, like you said, the integrity of the data. And just to show you quickly, we have on this back end, we have a very simple way. All you have to do is add users. So you'll have people that are just viewers of this, it's basically just a username and password. So you can come in, you can add users as often as you want. But then you can see here, this is an example of all entity administrators. The other one would just say, user, entity user. And this is where you would add annotations as well. So this is the back end, this is the control panel. And as you start to create reports that are private and public, you would be able to come in and log in. They're different than you do to your Yahoo or your Facebook account. I'm going to jump in really quickly and show you two other quick views. This is our checkbook or our transactions, and the majority of our clients choose to keep this internal. So don't feel like this is something that you would have to put out there for anybody else other than the internal staff. But in this case, we're showing about $89 million worth going back to 2009. It's about almost 70,000 rows of data, and it's all the checks that the city has, that they've encountered, since 2009. So it works a lot like Excel. We joke around, it's like Microsoft Excel online, or on steroids online. Yeah, you can move things around, no different than Excel. But we have, if you can't read it, it's relatively small on your screen. We have everything from check date to check number to the general ledger amount to the vendor name, the document description, reference number, departments. It's powerful, it's quick, so I can come in and type in something like uniform. Automatically can see it changes that total. I can, I could click on police. And now it's only sorting uniforms within the police department. I could look at a certain vendor, click on that. I can come in and I can sort it. We've had a lot of clients lately come and tell us, and this is relatively new to us, but they said they've given access to their auditors at the end of the year. They've just given them a username and password. They can come in and do a lot of the intro work in here in terms of just research, because you can also pull aggregates. So if I was looking for a general ledger amount range, I could come find that. You have different ranges here. In certain states, the range, you have to put every transaction over $5,000. I don't think Georgia is like that yet, but in the case, you also have, you can break it out by departments. You can look at it by total amount. You can also look at vendors. Here's all the vendors they're spending money with, highest to lowest. And let's just say I was looking for island disposal. I can click on that, and you can see it automatically reflects the changes over here to the right. So it moves very quickly, but having this access at your fingertips allows you to go in and find what you were looking for quickly. Even if vendors are asking questions of you, did you cut that check last week? Well, this is a quick way to come in and check that out if you want to. Just recently, we had a city that actually connected their P cards to this, and they wanted every P card purchase. That's just another way that it can be used. As long as we have the correct file type, the correct file type, you can load all different types of data sets in here. And then the last thing I'm going to show you, and I'm done, and I'll open it up for questions, is city up. This was a client of ours, the city of Sausalito, California. The reason I'm pulling them up is the city manager here had just come in, I think, early 2004 or late 2005. I forget, but what he did, he used the balance sheet to show how, when he came here, what the city was. I think they were dipping into the reserves, and he just kind of wanted to show the picture. But if you click into assets, you can see that when you click into, for example, I think it was debts or was it long term, you can kind of see quickly where they had gone out and they start saving some money. But there's a number of ways you could slice and dice the balance sheet. But you can see that just in the pie graph, I have my assets, I have my liabilities, and I can drill into it no different than what we were doing earlier. So to kind of put things in perspective, we have, going back to Rockport, we have our annual view that looks at the data year over year. Of course, load future or projected budgets in there. We have our balance sheet that I just went through. We have the checkbook or the transactions. That could be every transaction as well. And then we have the current year that looks at budget to actuals, year or month over month, as well as those comparisons, in years past. And all four of those views are included in the price, as well as we're creating the site, we're hosting it for you. We have customer service. We'll do training for you. And if you did want to roll this out, to the public, you say, hey, we want to make this something that everybody's aware that we're doing. Doesn't have to be, but we also will include helping you with some sort of proactive PR campaign to let others know that this is something that the city has decided to do. And all of that is inclusive. And we're not charging any implementation fee in 2014. So the annual price is it's a fixed cost, and you're guaranteed that fixed cost, for 3 years. Should you decide to continue on for all 3 of those years. So I know I went through a lot of things, and hopefully you all can still hear me, but do you have any questions on anything that I covered?
What about it, folks?
Mayor,
Go
I
ahead,
do,
Ms.
and
Hanson.
I'll be real quick, Ryan.
Yes.
Our city administrator has been trying to move us towards identifying things like cost per citizen. Are there any forecasting provisions within the program that will allow to extract that type of data?
We have had other requests, and if you have that data, we can certainly load that in. That won't be a problem. We've done similar things.
But there's no way to do the calculations within the program.
There's not, but we will be in the new year. We will be rolling out, and this is going to be first rolled out to clients. We're going to be doing not only benchmarking, so you can start looking at other cities, whether it be similar populations or similar budget sizes. You'll be able to start looking at demographics. There's all sorts of metrics that we'll be rolling out, and then additionally we'll be doing budget milestones. So you'll be able to load different versions of your budget in there and see those as they kind of change throughout the process. So we're continually launching new products. Right now we specifically focused on financial and budget information as kind of being the hub of this, since it seems to be one of the more important areas I think that a lot of cities and counties and just government in general are using.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Council members? Anyone else?
No,
Oh, I thought you had. Ryan,
Yes.
can you give me and council a breakdown on the actual annual cost to participate in this program?
Yes, definitely. So our goal was to be able to allow every size government on this platform. We didn't want to price anybody out of it. So how the pricing works is it's a tiered structure based on overall budget. So, budget size, I think our biggest client is the city of Los Angeles. They have about a $22.5 billion budget. We have clients that are less than $3 million annual overall budget. So the tier works based on your overall budget. The annual fee that I had mentioned for the year is $6,500. So $6,500, and that's all in. And in 2014 with 0 implementation costs. So I joke around. I don't know if this will make sense. I grew up originally in Indiana. Lived all over. I said it's like old country buffet. You pay the one fee and you get everything that you want to eat. You don't have to worry about fees throughout the year. Maybe a bad analogy. Maybe Ryan's. That's what
I guess that's the bottom line, Brian. 65, we always interested in cost, obviously, with everything we do. I thought you had a wonderful presentation. We got some sophisticated council members. I'm not very sophisticated, but just looking at the screen, it looks really good and something that you can have at your fingertips and it make a difference. And of course, Fred has kind of led the charge relative to this and what we the grant. So, but anyway, we certainly appreciate you taking time to share that with us. How's your weather in California?
Yes, sir. Well, I just moved here in June. I moved from Texas, so this is relatively new to me, and it's actually pretty chilly this morning. So I don't think we're too different. I know it's pretty chilly in Georgia today when I checked as well. You all had some rain, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Council members, Fred? Yes, go ahead, Fred.
And this is something, Mayor and Council, as you know, this was part of our initial budget for the year. So we want to look at participating in this. We could actually look at, for the upcoming fiscal year, or we could recognize the 6,500 within the budget and try to make it happen there. That's the wish of council.
What is the date? Ryan, you mentioned that there's no fee for 2014. When does that end?
Yes.
Does that end January 1st, that deal?
Yes, and that was part, most of the software that you'll see out there has implementation fees, but that wasn't our reasoning behind doing it. A lot of the front-loaded work that we're doing is just that, so we'll be, 2014, we will not, we're even allowing people to, let's just say you wanted to put, the effective date for January 1st, but you're willing to sign it in 2014, we'll still waive the implementation fee. And our payment structure is very, very flexible. We, I'll throw it out there just in case anybody wants to know, but it basically states that, we invoice about 45 days after that effective date, and then you'll have 30 days to pay. So in all reality, it's a 75-day payment. So most of our clients, like I mentioned earlier, they're up within 2 weeks, and they're not even paying for another 60, 65 days. So that isn't as big of a deal for us as getting guys going and getting them up and running, because it's pretty straightforward, the payment structure. And we're looking at about a $2,500 implementation fee. So, since I mentioned you're locked into that price too for a minimum of 3 years, you won't have to worry about any fluctuation for those 3 years, and obviously no implementation fee.
Good enough. Fred?
If council wants to look at that within the budget, we just need to legal figure out some areas to round it out. We will be having some savings. So you can make that happen with the budget amendment.
I don't have a question for Ryan, but I do have one for our IT, Mr. Sykes. This appears to be a Windows-based system. Have we upgraded to Windows 8 on everything? Is this going to operate on our systems?
This would work just fine. It's a browser-based application that they have. So from any computer, even an older operating system computer, the browser will allow you to go in and look at whatever you need, and it's just an upload to them of the data from the finance department.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I don't want to jump off because I know you guys probably need to get going, but you'll also be able to see these analytics that I talked about. So if you put it out for the public, you can see the number of visits, how long they're spending on the site. You'll be able to see visits per day, where they're coming from, with the links that they're clicking to get there. And to your point, we have new versus returning users, and you can actually see the browsers that people are using. So if anything down the road, if you ever were thinking about phasing a certain browser out, this could be a pretty good way to see who's actually using it for what browser. But yes, it is browser friendly. We've made it available for all.
This is Councilman Brooke. Can the updates be automated?
Updates automated? We're not making them automated. We're just making them extremely easy to make updates. So since we don't want to get behind your firewalls, we're running kind of in the cloud separately. The updating process is next to no time. Most of our clients will update, the current year at the end of each month. It takes less than 5 minutes. And then just however often you want to update, the checkbook or the transactions, it's entirely up to you. But that whole process, it takes little to no time to do. And we'll even do it for you if you want.
Mayor, I just wanted to mention one thing to Mayor and Council as we're thinking about this, and that is that we have expended a tremendous amount of resources and time with responding to open records requests, and a number of those being central to budget questions. So this is a way in which to address that issue by having this information readily available for the public. In addition, it just speaks to some of the complaints that we've had as we've gone through the whole budget cycle of different people wanting different queries of data, and for them to be able to create their own reports is just, it's an awesome tool to have for the public.
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Body.
When I asked that we move forward and put each department out there, and we put, you know, the salaries out and the expenses and what have you, and make that available on our website, you know, to the public, this is really absolutely, you know, wonderful to see this, because what it does is exactly what my colleagues have said. It just absolutely makes everything transparent and available to the public simply by clicking. Anything they want to know.
That's right, and if you all are still watching, I just wanted to pull this up. This is a client of ours. They actually put this transparency button on their site, and they made a little one-page microsite. You could always do something like this where it kind of walks through, you know, they videotaped it. It says kind of the background as to why they're putting it out there for the town. You can click into the actual, you know, site. They give some very specific tips for their town, but it even takes you to some frequently asked questions. So if you know that you're getting certain questions asked that are taking us, you know, a certain amount of time, they have a number of frequently asked questions down here that take you directly to the answer within our system. So, for example, overall, what are the town's revenues and expenses? When I click into that, it takes you directly to the answer within our system.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I just have one last question for Ryan. Ryan, suppose we're 10 years into an agreement with your organization, and then we decide for whatever reason there's a better product, or we just, you know, have decided not to continue our relationship. What happens to that historical data? Is it available to us in some type of encapsulated format?
Yes, most certainly. We will still give you access to all of that data. You'll be able to go and pull it out as you see fit. We've had, you know, half a dozen governments that we have been the only repository for all of their information due to one unfortunate situation or another, whether it be we've had someone get struck by lightning and all their servers and everything were fried, where they're still their repository, we still are. So yeah, you will still have access to all of that. You can pull it as needed and take it with you. It'll always be stored in here.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? On behalf of the council and those in our audience tonight, our citizens, I'd like to thank you for a great presentation. Look forward to our getting back with you at some point in time, and appreciate Mr. Garner arranging this session for us. It was very productive and extremely informative. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it. You all have a great rest of your evening, and I look forward to talking with everybody soon.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
That was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Ms. Grant, item number 10, overview presentation of city's enterprise resource planning system. Well, item number 10, folks.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Today we're going to be presenting to you some information regarding the info system and also address a few items that we make to y'all. We've had a lot of questions regarding the implementation of InCode and some of the challenges and some of the things that we've done with it. So today we just wanted to give you an overview of where we are. As you're aware, last year we started the implementation of several modules. And we wanted to let you know some of the challenges that we face, some of the findings, because they are material. What I sent to you today was, what I sent in your package was just a quick overview. Two of the major areas of concerns that we have right now is the cash reconciliation module and your accounts payables module. And today we're going to discuss the cash module, cash reconciliation module, as it relates to courts and their utility bill. These are the two major departments in which we receive cash from on a daily basis. This is a simplified overview regarding payments and how they come in. Mind you, when we started, we had zero. When I said zero, there were no SOP, standard operation procedures. There was nothing to document what the process was. So we had to not only identify them, but we also had to implement procedures. And I want to address myself and she's our general ledger accountant, and she's going to talk to you about some of the challenges that she's encountered in doing this. But I wanted to give you an overview. We have basically 4 methods of payment that come in. Cash. We have cash and checks. We have money order and credit cards. These are your methods the payments come in. Right here.
Stand by.
Back again. One more time. Okay? And this is what I'm giving you is the cash flow method for customer service. As you see, we have the cash that comes in from cash and checks, money order, and credit cards. And each one of them has different procedures and different components. When cash come in, basically a customer will come up to the window. We'll apply the money to their accounts. We will have what we call we'll create a deposit ticket, and we will receive a daily transaction report. This report is generated out of Encode. And then finance receives the deposit tickets and the daily transaction report. Okay. The second item that we have is your credit card payments. These are important because this takes several components to this. We receive a payment, and the payment is again applied to the customer account in Encode. Then that payment is sent to merchant service number 1, and it's important that you realize that there's several merchant services that we have to go through. So that transaction is submitted, and then it's processed. And then that merchant service company sends it to the second merchant service company. And that merchant service sends the payment to the bank. So you have one that processes, one sends it to the bank. And then that transaction is pooled, it's closed out, it's batch is what we call it. It's sent to finance, and we receive a transaction report and a bank report, and then we match it to the general ledger, hopefully. And the last payment that we have is web payment. We have a client, customers that pay by the web. They go on the website, they make a payment, or they make some payments, what they call an ACH payment, every month. So these are the type payments that you get in when you have customer service with water and with sanitation. Second major source of revenues of cash that's coming in is your courts. This process is different as well. Again, we had zero SOPs. There was no documentation of the process. And this is basically the only thing that you have right now to tell you what's going on with it. We have the same type of payments. What's different about this, if you look at cash, cash is coming in. It is not recorded in Encode. It is recorded in a program called Courtware. Okay, so that money comes in, court applies it to the customer's account in Courtware. They deposit the funds, they prepare a daily transaction report by hand, and they send that report to finance. The deposits ticket and the original report is maintained at courts. The finance department reconciles the report to their daily transaction report that's sent to us, to the bank. Then we have credit cards. Credit cards, again, is very important. Again, you have those two major services. And then we're paying all, the rest of it kind of flows together, but it's important that you know that these merchant services and the process is very important. What have been some of our challenges? One, we have items that's listed in the general ledger as being deposited into one account when it was in fact deposited into another. What that is basically is that it's shown on the general ledger that it's recorded here, but in essence it's not. The money did not go into the bank that it's recorded in. It's going into one of the other bank accounts. Then we have funds that's deposited into a bank account that's not recorded in Encode. This is really important in that we saw money coming into the bank in July, I think the end of July to September, we ran into some problems. Money came in, we couldn't identify. We did not know where the money was coming from. So we had to work, we tried to work with the department heads, and we also worked with the bank. We had to get the bank involved to identify where the money was coming from, identify emergency service, and then try to get the reports. This account was open and closed in a short period of time. Then we had transactions that's recorded in the general ledger in code, but not listed in the module for bank reconciliation. What that is, you have two modules. The modules should talk to each other. And you have it listed in the general ledger, but when you go to reconcile it in the bank reconciliation account, that transaction may not show up. Now, this is something that should have been called when you're installing your system. You should run a test. You should run a parallel to make sure that everything is working. Apparently, that was never done, so that has been a problem. And this last year, if you remember, we had findings and we had checks that went back to 2004. That's part of the problem. Okay. I don't know how they got around it, but we did identify that that's part of the problem. We also had merchant service accounts that were open and transaction processed without the finance department knowledge. That again applies to item number 2. We had checks that was voided in the general ledger, but not voided in the bank reconciliation module. That again goes to number 3. We just couldn't, we know that they were voided, but they were not in the system. And let me go back to that number 2, where we had funds that was deposited and not in code. One of the things that caused us to do is do off-site reconciliation. And I really don't like to do off-system reconciliation, but in code stops. You get 2 months. Like 2 months, we just couldn't stop. We still had to maintain and make sure that we're reconciling to those reports that we're receiving and making sure that we're keeping up with the cash. Okay, so that was one of the things that caused. The last thing, we had difficulty reconciling manual reports to ENCODE system reports. That is the handwritten manual reports that we receive, reports from other places. Again, they may not reconcile to the bank deposit or to ENCODE. I'm going to stop here and let Deborah kind of give you firsthand, because she was the person that was doing the reconciliation. And she's going to elaborate a little bit further, and I'll come back and tell you some solutions.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor and Council. We'll start back with the first item, and I'll go kind of more so in depth so you can understand exactly how the system is set up. The system is set up is you have 8 modules that personnel operate within, and that could be accounts payable, payroll, utility, business permits, business license. There's a module for everything that is performed within daily operations. And from those 8 modules, the information should move from the module into your general ledger. You have 2 general ledgers. Your general ledger, you have a general ledger for Wells Fargo, you have a general ledger for Bank of America. And depending upon how the transaction is initiated in the system, you can have one deposit that can split between 2 ledgers. And normally, that's normally not how it works. But how it's set up, you have 2 ledgers, and you can have one transaction, and then it splits off into 2 different ledgers. And from the general ledger, then all of that information should transfer over into the bank reconciliation. And we've seen where there have been situations where the information was not transferring. So we had to contact ENCODE and do further research to determine exactly what was the cause of the information not being transferred correctly. Within the general ledger, like I said, you have 2 ledgers, and depending upon the codes, it kind of divides itself out. And we're working with ENCODE now to kind of streamline how the information, once it's even keyed into those various codes, how it will fall into 1 ledger as opposed to 2. And then moving to your next item, where the funds deposited into the bank account but not recorded in code. There were deposits that were coming into the bank account, but we could not determine if the amount the deposits will come in, but depending on how the batch was closed or not closed, caused a variation. So therefore, you would have to go through your merchant services. You have 5 merchant services providers. You have 4 accounts, along with those 5 merchant services that are needed in order to reconcile back to reconcile both of those general ledgers to one. So that kind of creates, some complexity. Then we're working on streamlining it, making it more transparent so that if you look at what transpires up on the 3rd floor, then you can easily follow through the general ledger to see exactly how things are operating. And our next issue was the transaction listed in the general ledger model, but not listed within the bank reconciliation. The system itself, depending upon the type of transaction, once it hit the general ledger, if there was any similarity, just as far as a check number or a date, the system would not allow for it to transfer the information back into the reconciliation. So it would only show one side, therefore causing it to be off balance. And we would get in touch with Encode, and we would manually have to go in and enter what the system was not doing. This has been a monthly reoccurring. So, and we are working with Encode to correct these issues. The next item is the merchant services open and transaction process without finance knowledge. And looking into those deposits that flow through court services on a monthly basis, there will be changes within the providers. So therefore, when you change the provider, you change how the transaction moves from going through that credit card machine, or going from that web payment, or going from that online payment, and it will go through your merchant services, and then from there, it will go through another service that kind of take that transaction and move it into one deposit. And from that provider, then it would go to Wells Fargo. And from Wells Fargo, then it would move into either Wells Fargo account or the Bank of America account. And so we're working on streamlining the process and changing the back house so that it can make the information flow much easier. And you can follow through exactly when a transaction transpires from whatever module within the system. We'll be able to quickly identify it and reconcile those items. And the next item are checks voided in the general ledger but not voided in the bank reconciliation module. Depending upon when a check originated and when it voided, if it generated and voided within the same month, the system would correctly void it out correctly. If it generated in 1 month but voided in another, the system will unpost it, but it will not provide a double entry. It would only do a one-sided entry, in which we would have to go in and do a journal entry to correct and make sure that it was processed correctly, that void was processed correctly, regardless of when it was voided and when it was being generated. And the last item is the difficulty of reconciling the manual report to the Encode's transaction report. This is basically dealing with those manually handwritten reports and just making sure that at the end of the day that the batches were properly closed out and not carried forward onto another day, which caused the deposits to be somewhat slanted in how they came into your merchant services statements. And so we're moving forward. We're identifying a lot of the issues. We're working with Encode. We're working with the departments and personnel to kind of get the operational and making sure that we can easily maneuver within each module, and that the modules are working together to get us to the final product of reconciliation on a much easier basis monthly.
Thank you, Joe. Next.
I wanted Deborah to give you that explanation so you can see what she's going through about the process of the document. Everything that she said, we had to learn on our own. Trial and error. When she couldn't balance, we had to figure out what the problem was. We had to document the process. We had to figure out what's the next step. We needed to know if there's a bank report we see money coming in the bank, but we can't identify what the sources were, so we have to go and figure out which merchant services is, because I think there's 4 or 5. And imagine not even having to know what the merchant service was. And that puts you in a stop. You come to a halt, you cannot reconcile. And so you have to come in with a workaround. So we had to do a workaround and do off-site. So now what we're doing is going back now, since we have all of the pieces, we had to make it was a puzzle. We put the pieces together for the puzzle. Now we have it, and now we have to go back now and take our off-site reconciliation and reconcile it to Encode. Because what I don't like and what we don't need is to have something in Encode and then have something off-site. We pay for a system, we need to use it. So we need to get it right. Now, and with doing that, now that you know what some of the problems were, what are the solutions? What are the solutions? What do we want to do? Well, we're working with Encode right now to make sure that in the back house, as she said, in the back house, we're changing those codes, and that Encode is going to change. They're changing those codes to what the bank codes are. We've identified the problem. This is a solution to fix that. So now, instead of having to figure out which bank account the money should be in, now we're going to know exactly where it's going, because it's going to be pointed in the right direction. So it's going to be a training process with not only downstairs with which bank account we use, but it's also going to be something that we have to get with Encode to work on. Then it says, we've communicated with all of the departments, with all department heads, and advised them that there shall not be any merchant service accounts, anything open, closed, changed, related to financing, because finance have input and involvement. If there's a merchant service account, we are to have full access and be an authorized user, so whichever reports we need to do the reconciliation, we'll have it. Okay, we're going to eliminate the manual reports. We're looking at developing a bridge that will automate one of the processes. Manual is the process of recording courtware and court payments. So if we switch, either we're going to switch to Encode, or if that's not the best solution, if it's continue with courtware, we're going to be on the bridge so that that information is automatically uploaded, and it will stop some of the errors. We've already started some training. We spoke with all cashiers and letting them know that they need to batch out close at the end of the day. So that when you batch out, the reports that you send over to finance will match the deposits and everything will flow. So we told them and communicated the reports of the batching out. All cashiers are to be they're going to be trained on how to reconcile those deposits to their Encode reports, the daily transaction reports. They're looking at those and they're saying, this is what I said I sent to the bank, now my report needs to reflect the same thing. That again makes it easy when we start doing reconciliation. We're working with Encode too to make changes. We need to figure out what was going on, what was causing the problem. And I've been speaking with them as late as today. And part of the problem, my concern was what causes us to have a one-sided entry. You know, we have a double-sided entry, and if every debit is credit, we should have that. Our modules should agree. What's causing the problem? One of the things they told me, we had a power surge. You know, when it's low in power, maybe some of this process didn't finish. You know, what can we do to prevent that? What happens when we void a check? So part of it, we may have to do some training, because the way we was taught is not the way it may need to be done. So there's training that's involved. We have to get everyone training on proper training on Encode. We're unlearning some things, a way of doing things. We're cleaning up some of the things that happened in the past. We have to get them off the generation. Because at some point, going back to 1999, 2000, I'm sorry. In this case, 2004 for the checks. So from 2004 forward, you got to get that straight. Otherwise, you're still going to be off balance. So we have to figure out how to, we're working on cleaning that up. All of this impact brings us to the next topic, the audit. This impacts our audit. That's one of the items that we're giving to the auditor that we're working on. We are pretty close. Every time we think we're going to move right through it, we get another issue, and we have to call Encode. A lot of it, some of it is developmental, some of it we can't explain what happened, some of it's training, but we are working through those issues to get them done. The other item of concern with our audit is our accounts payable, and this one kind of took me back, because on June 30th, one of the problems we had last year is when we got ready to close, I did not know that we had to actually close and print the reports as of that date. And accounts payable was not one of those. So when we closed, we got ready to close out accounts payables report last year, everything balanced. When we got ready to look at it again, we had a difference. And I asked Enco, why do we have a difference? They couldn't tell me, so I had to go back and go through every transaction. And what I determined is that they had transactions that was, they bought over 1999 to 2009 invoices that was paid, and they showed them being paid twice, and showed them being paid in a year. They could not tell us what happened. They're still researching. And what they told us is they had to get their development team involved. This problem is at the magnitude that they have to get the development team involved. We don't know why they want to, when it's all said and done, they want to go back and do audits to figure out if it's something we did, what happened, what caused the change right now. We don't have an answer. I just need them to fix the problem first, and then we find out what caused it after it's fixed. So they're looking at having it, hopefully by next week, when again, they will get continued access to additional information. And then as far as the audit, those are the only two things that I'm aware of. I'm not sure what that audit can mean. As of today, I don't have another list. I don't know if you told me to prepare something, but as far as I'm concerned, it's the only two things that I know. Any questions? I know I give you a lot of information.
It's a great update. Councilperson? You have any questions, Deborah? Anyone?
Excellent information, though, presentation.
Mayor, I just have kind of a quick comment, and I think it's something that we need to put in the parking lot of our minds. Since Lolita has been our finance director, she's brought a tremendous amount of information before us about things that didn't necessarily work the way that they should have historically. And sometimes the person that's the cleanup person is the one who gets blamed for what was done before the cleanup person got there. So I think we need to always keep in mind that the individuals who are working in finance now are keeping us apprised of the problems and making certain that we have full understanding of what's taken place. And when our audits come in, we need to make sure that they are not blamed for things that happened before they were there.
Doing that.
Well, we went from a hand-done system, basically, to utilizing income. And I think you've done a tremendous job, because I remember when a lot of our department and people working in the departments were feeling, very frustrated, along with people who, a lot of our merchants, a lot of the people that we do business with were having problems getting paid when they should, or when they thought they should, and they themselves were having a hard time understanding, the payout in the systems, because they've been used to the old way. And I really appreciated you taking everybody together the one time that we met and let everybody begin to say, the problems that they were beginning to experience. And of course, as you've worked forward, you have really uncovered, problems of being able to mesh things and to be able to then, okay, here's the problem. Now how do I, what happened? Where is it? I have to go find it. And I think everybody here at council appreciates the explanation that you gave us tonight, because I know that all the people working here in the city that have to use the income system, feel the same level of frustration, I'm sure, that y'all have found in trying to move from an old hand entry system into an automated system. And I do appreciate it.
Anyone else? Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much. All right, well, let's move down to item number 11. You and Mr. Prescott.
Real quick now, this is, we've got two appointments on the committee that need to be addressed. One specifically up to come to Main Street. So what we did was we asked the district council member whose member resigned last week, the week before last. We've got two vacant seats on the DDA, and I want to make sure that they stay pretty much concurrent with keeping a good number. I asked the district council member to go ahead and see if we can nominate somebody, and I don't know if he's got a name to nominate, but that person has to do that. Ms. Bonner, if you get a chance, we have to nominate somebody from Main Street. Mr. Bob Mills is the Main Street person, he resigned, he needs to be replaced.
So Bob,
Yes, and so by virtue of his resignation from Main Street, he also impacted DDA because he was the Main Street representative to the DDA. So whenever you make that appointment, then Main Street just gotta go ahead and appoint somebody to the DDA board, so we can fill that vacancy. But right now, the Downtown Development Authority, District One representative, needs to appoint somebody to the board, so we could have, I'll put some cushion just in case some folks can't get into the meetings and keep going forward.
thank you, Fred. Question. Will this term expire?
The term for this person on the DDA board expires June 6, 2015. So that person, whoever you appoint, will have to be reappointed in June. And I think we have 6 members that 6 members that will have to be replaced in June. So get you guys head wrapped around that. Mr. Stewart will have to reappoint. Mr. Naughty will have to reappoint. Mr. Elroy will have to appoint. The mayor's appointee will be have to reappoint. And all this will happen in the month of June. So we have about 4 or 5 members who have to be reappointed, all new members appointed in June.
Will that be sent out to us? Will that be sent to us?
Yes, notification will be sent out in advance and
not just that we have to reappoint, but just a full list of the DDA board and whose
their
appointments.
terms. Yes, I can email that to you last night.
Thank you.
And remember, we had Trace, not me, but city attorney and the former business development director had to retrace all the way back to 1980. To the inception of the DDA to actually come up with the term served, because when we funded it, we didn't know who was on and who was off. To find out who was available to be on and who was not, so get the staggered terms.
I'm sorry, how many appointments did you say that in June?
Oh, 6, 2015.
Are they not staggered?
They are. There are 2 that will end in 2017, and then there are 6 that will end in 2015.
And then I think the terms then, the adjustment says.
That's the adjustment. They're all 4-year terms at that point. But the way the initial, when Adam and I went through and did the math initially, it's like they're 2-year terms, 4-year terms, and 6-year terms are the very first board. But no matter how you slice and dice it, every board out there ends up with that number coming off at one time and with a handful coming off at another time. So
And just something to check, and that is, we're making a reappointment, but my memory is that the only time that we should be making a reappointment or an appointment is in the event of a vacancy.
that's correct.
That's correct.
So we're reappointing in June. Why are we reappointing?
Because their term ends in June. Their
The term
actual
is
term of
ending.
service.
And that's what I'm asking, to check the language about the time. We don't have to discuss it, just, I'm a little bit confused about the reappointment. Frederick?
Yes.
Yes.
So my appointment of the downtown development member should be a Main Street member.
Yes. You have to appoint an instrument.
And y'all be ready to make that, so y'all be prepared for 4-3-7. Janice, we got that down, recommendation on the floor.
From Councilmember Stewart and Councilmember Laura.
That's good, that's good. Anything else, Fred?
That's it for that item.
Thank you so much. Then let's move down to item number 12.
Yes, sir, Mayor and Council, as you guys know, one of the things that I promised y'all that I would do as it relates to our SPLOST 4 is to keep y'all every 2 months to give y'all an idea of what's been spent and where we're spending the money, so we can have a better accountability of our SPLOST 4 dollars. And so this is the second installment of this presentation to you guys, and I'll go over it very quickly. I'll put on the overhead so we can see where we are.
Ms. Carter, while you're walking across, who's going to be keeping this going for us?
In actual fact, assistant to the city administrator, this will be one of the projects I hand off to her, and I'll give that to y'all in a memo. She'll be running it, and then whoever the next city administrator is, if he so chooses to take it on, is welcome to do so. And as you guys know, IT has been one of the big things that we've been focusing on as we talk about upgrading our systems. IT, I think we need to back up, bring the light back in. Please let me know for some more reason. We're good.
Bring it right back up.
Thank you.
Fire chief said electro.
We're gonna get the chief off the lights, man. There you go, chief. That's great. So we've had 4 or 5 designated areas that we're currently spending our pay-as-you-go funds for SPOS. And as you know, IT was one of those that we wanted to address, upgrade our IT infrastructure, was approved by the citizens, and this is what we've done. To date, we budgeted, total budget for this, for IT was $600,000. To date, we've spent $206, with some variations in there because there's been some new costs come in. But for the most part, that's where we are, with about $393,000 left to spend. You know, those include new computers. As I told you, our court was running some really old equipment, some of the stuff you would see back in the 1990s. That you really shouldn't be running in today's information technology world, but they work. So court is fully converted. We've started in City Hall. City Hall is being converted. I know my system went from a desktop to a laptop, what's it called? Docking station. So now I can take my work with me back and forth without having to worry about, you know, how do I work from home or when I'm away. That system is now being done citywide. The police notebooks have been purchased as well, and I think they're installing as we go. So the police notebooks are being addressed in the new cars as well as the old cars that they're being addressed. Our server systems are being updated. Firewall protection is being updated. And so, see, the next iteration of this is going to be, next year you'll see them working on our fiber. No, fiber was already done.
Fiber's actually
was done. But our Wi-Fi system is something that is also going to be looked at early next year, as well as the audio video in this room, as you see. We're having a problem communicating with the citizens, just reading on the board. This system has been in place, I think, since the building was built. And needs to be upgraded. But we'll also be video movies, so we'll be using a much better system than the handheld home camera that we're currently using to record the meetings. And Ms. Janice will be loving this. We'll be moving hopefully to the Granicus system that allow for the agendas to be built by the department head. So no longer will Janice have to be doing a lot of that work, and it'll be inputted, and you guys will get it in your notebooks that will be advertised and we'll given to you guys. So it'll be much more easier for you to work, much more easier for Ms. Janice to put agendas together so we don't lose a boatload of paper as we're currently losing right now. So that's where we are with IT. As you know, public safety was another one the citizens who trusted us to spend some money on. We had budgeted $700,000 of SPOS for 2 new trucks. Thank you, Chief. We've gotten them much cheaper than that. We've got one on the road right now, and I told Chief, please put purchased by SPOS on the back of that fire truck, please. So everybody that sits behind it at a stoplight, or as it drive by at 100 miles an hour going to a fire or rescue event, they can read it and realize that's exactly where the money went.
And large,
Yes.
large, so they don't miss it.
And so we got the first truck last month ago, and we'll be getting the next one in 3 months.
No, so we got the last one 3 months ago.
3 months ago, and then the next one will be coming in February.
Towards the end of January, 1st of February.
And so that will complete, this line item will be done. As we promised the citizens, we've spent their money well on that issue. The other one that we spent on was our police cars. As you know, we budgeted 4 police cars per year. Thanks to Chief, our police chief got them in cheaper. They came with a good deal. It got us some charges at a reduced price. And we were able to get 4 with SPOS and 3 additional with the sales of the 2 old fire trucks.
Yes.
That we were able to sell. So Chief Dorsey's got 7 cars this year, which is excellent. We were able to get him some new equipment. As you know, this is what makes our police force excellent. We got a new building, we got new equipment, and it was good to hear Henry County police officers talking about what's going on in the McDonough Police Department from the standpoint of, hey, you guys are making it happen. Realize, if you see a Henry police car that's blue, those blue cars, those cars have been on the road since 2001, somewhere around there. That's way beyond the life of a police car. So those county cars are catching it. Our guys got good equipment. So that's, I just want everybody to realize that we're putting our public safety guys in the best equipment possible. So that's where we are with that. Jonesboro Road Park is one that we put on as our pay-go, not as a pay-go, but as a bonded project, but you guys authorized us to go ahead and get the concept plan done. And so that initial price is coming out of that at this point. So when we bond, that number will be a little less than what we bond minus what we spent. And then 4,800 is what we allotted to be spent on the concept plan. So we're moving forward with that project. We've got the first iteration of that, and we're going to get it to construction of drawings pretty soon.
When are we going to be able to see the plan?
As soon as the district commissioners think the council member thinks that's adequate enough. She had a lot of questions on the first iteration of it, and I think we're working with the landscape architect to make it happen. So it was just a base map that he started out with, kind of get some feedback from her, and I think she kind of shared it with some folks and got some feedback. The other major project in this project, all of these projects, this one, the Jonesboro Road and the McDonough Memorial, will be handed over to Taffany. She's actually keeping track of Alexander Park, and if you speak to Steve, he'll tell you he's enjoyed working with her, making sure that we're getting what we paid for. So she's been keeping them straight on the straight and narrow, with making sure that the monies are coming from the right place and going to the right. I enjoy having her do that for us, and so that will go to her. The major project is the cemetery expansion. We budgeted $500,000 for that. $28,000 was what we paid for the consultants to do the master plan and the construction drawings for the cemetery expansion. And they've actually come in town and looked at the 3 lots, additional lots that we have. One has got a house buried on it. So Mr. Rufus, you were right. When they ran out there, that large tract right off the cemetery, off of Roger Street, yes, they buried a portion of a structure that was popped up on an aerial photo in the 1950s or 40s, and then disappeared. I think I showed that to the mayor because we were looking at the old aerial photos over time, and it just popped up, and then the garage disappeared and the house disappeared. Well, they buried some of it right there on the side. The other issue we found out with those lots is that they're holding a lot of water, which is incredible from the engineer. We don't know why that's happening. If there's some kind of rock feature that's actually blocking the water, because from where this major stand, the main entrance of the cemetery, it slopes away going towards Macon Street. However, you would think that there wouldn't be water pooling in that area, but it is. That's another major area. So when we talk about constructing on that, they actually, today's cemeteries are done via vaults. And he thinks that system, we won't have a big problem utilizing it because the vaults actually does hinder the water. You'll have to raise it just a little bit when we do actually construct on there. So it won't be that flat surface that you think it will be. We got to remove the house too. That's part of the process. So the other 2 lots have accessibility issue. That's the reason why we can't address them right now. But they're doing the master plan. They're at the stage right now where they're doing the market analysis to let us know how much money we could get off of that and what would sell in terms of the different interment features, whether mausoleums or crypts or whatever. They'll give us that whole analysis and present that to mayor and council probably in the middle of January or February. That'll be done. And then from that, they'll develop a master plan and we'll go from there. Construction, we should be constructing by next year at the same time. We should be turning dirt at the same time. That's still the goal, still the plan. Those are the key areas that you asked us to look at in terms of expenditures. That's where we are today. And if y'all have any questions, please let me know. We'll post this on the internet so everybody will be able to see where we are today. And hopefully y'all will get another report by the finance director or the assistant too. Will give you the next update in February. So I just wanted to make sure y'all see exactly where it's going. We'll put this online. And we're keeping really good track of where this money's going and the documentation is there. We promise that we will do. Because, we've heard the questions about SPLOST 3. We want to make sure we stay off a lot of those questions so folks will actually be able to see it. And as you know, where they say, everything we're doing, we're putting out there. So if you have any questions, go ahead and check where, as to where the SPLOST money's going. Thank you, man.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you, Fred. Okay. Ask a couple of questions here. They jump right now, as we sit here, we have 2 executive sessions, and I don't think that's necessary. We do have an item of litigation, but I entertain, members of the council, with a motion to further amend this agenda to add to 12A, we have real estate on the executive session, to add litigation OCGA 50-14-2. I'd like to entertain a motion that we further amend this to include that during the executive session.
So moved.
Have a second? Second. Anybody have any questions? Any questions? Ms. Price, please restate the motion relative to a further amendment of agenda to incorporate this under executive session litigation OCGA 50-14-2.
We have already previously amended the agenda. Now we want to amend item 12A for a motion to add litigation.
It sounds like we're just moving all of the executive session up.
I agree. Can we just
So
not
instead of
amend,
having
just
2
move it up?
sessions of executive session.
We're going to have
just having
16,
one.
we're just going to have 13 in.
Right.
Can we just do that?
Yes.
Just a motion to go into executive session? You don't have to amend the agenda again.
There's no need to amend.
Okay, all right. I have a motion and a second, right?
Yes.
Any questions?
Okay, are we using the same people just to go into executive session instead of amending the agenda?
Yes.
Okay, the motion is to go into executive session for real estate, which is OCGA 50-14-3B1, and for litigation, which is OCGA 50-14-2.
You please move this time.
7 in favor, Mayor.
Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know how long we'll be gone. We've got a couple of issues, potential litigation, we've got some real estate items to discuss. We certainly would encourage you to stay if you feel so compelled to, and you would have any action items, we'll bring those up, if we come back.
So we'll continue with what's on the agenda.
That's right, yeah, we'll continue on with, DOT, budget discussion, unscheduled comment, and then comment from our administrator. Ladies and
And
gentlemen,
15A also.
pardon?
And 15A also.
That's right,
That's
that's right.
another addition.
And, review of the city administrator, that's right. Thank you, James.
I see some people back there.
I can't hear.
Hey, what happens on the cruise schedule?
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions or comments? Okay, let's focus, ladies and gentlemen, this time, if you don't mind, I'm not gonna ask you to read it. And,
Ken, would you do your light again, please? 7 in favor, Mayor.
7 in favor. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't have any action items to bring to your attention at this time, so let's move down to Mr. Garland.
You're on.
Oh, yes,
Sorry. I guess the next item on the agenda is the McDonough repairs discussion, Mayor and Council. Part of our overall discussion with GR, over the course of the last, I guess, 7 to 8 months has been that they want us to put together a letter kind of outlining our support for the one repairs project. So what I did for you guys is put together a memo to recap our meeting, our first initial meeting where GR came to town and gave a presentation to us with 4 alternatives for the one-way pairs, two-way pairs, the do-nothing analysis. And of all of those, I think everyone on council was consistent that alternative 1 was the way to go in terms of the one-way pair system as it was designed by GDOT. But then we got some issues that we wanted to address with them. We've been going back and forth with those. But so what I've done is kind of give you a recap of what those alternatives were. And the one that GDOT recommended, which was alternative 1, and I think that was one that I think all of you initially said you were buying into. And so what? Excuse me. So what my memo does is lay out a second set of processes, which is to submit that letter to GDOT, that final letter that they're waiting on us that says we're buying into the project. They understand that we actually buying into the one-way pairs, alternative 1, and I want you all to look at this. We're going to go, there are 5 options that we want to address. I do want you all to vote on it because at the end of the day, what GDOT has asked us for is an unanimous decision by mayor and council on this memo, on this letter. And so with that, I think if we could go through Mr. Mayor and start talking, having going one by one, and if there's discussion, we discuss them as we go, but to just go down those numbers and get it together. Ultimately, my goal is, as outlined in the memo, is for us, we need to draft up a letter, which I've worked on like 3 different scenarios, and have that letter to you guys before we end here tonight, signed, so we can get it out to GDOT tonight, via email, and then through snail mail first thing in the morning. And so I think this has been long debated. We've had the public information meeting, open house, because we told GDOT this project has been lingering since 1994, or a little older. Since that time, many new people, many new businesses have popped up that are unaware of the project and potential impacts. So they had that open house for us. We got feedback and comments. So now it's time for us to submit that letter to GDOT. So, Mr. Mayor, I'll turn it over to you to process, and then we'll go through them one by one.
Thank you, Mr. Gardner. Ladies and gentlemen, we have item number 1 under A. You certainly will have an opportunity for discussion. I'm going to limit discussion to anybody, 5 minutes at the max. I would hope it'd be less than that. We've got 5 issues to deal with, so we'll take item number 1 up. And at this time, I guess I'll call for those that vote yes. Is that that'll be fine.
Can you raise your hand till I?
Okay, those that would support item number 1, that's the key. That's the key, Fred. It's unanimous.
I don't see your hand.
It's up. I'll raise it up.
Okay, then that looks like to me is unanimous, right?
It is, okay.
7 yes.
And vote. Okay, we move down to item number 2. You've got an A, a B, and a C. And based on a conversation I had with Fred today, under A, kind of an extension of A, and you may or may not have that, is to extend the entrance 80 foot further west, is what information you gave me today. So on A, let's take A first, B and C. On
Did you
A,
want them separate, Fred, or all together?
No, we're gonna go. Yes,
Item
we're gonna
number
go
2.
one. We're gonna go item 2, and let's let everybody vote on option A, B, or C. Yes, on A. Well, if you vote on A, you get a unanimous vote on A. You pretty much done.
that's right.
On B, and there, I think it'd just be best to kind of read them out, and I'll add that language in there if y'all want me to.
Okay, 80 foot
Yes,
further west.
in essence, number 2 said vote yes or no. A, west terminus should be a roundabout at the intersection of Doris and Jonesboro Road and Alexander Park entrance, at least 80 feet from the roundabout design as illustrated on GDOT concept plan at the public information meeting, because they did show that in there. If the roundabout is what you want, we want it to be at least 80 feet further west. B is west terminus shall be a signalized intersection of Doris, Jonesboro, and Alexander Park entrance, if a permit is approved by GDOT, District 3 office. That's B. C, GDOT illustrated improvements minus signalization and roundabout is what you see in this thing right now. And that's the only other option.
I have a question on B. B is not where it's at now, where 50 feet's at.
GDOT, and I'm trying to remember that they have two plans at the open house meeting, was the roundabout and the intersection improvement. The intersection improvements with the signalization was our plan. That was our plan, correct? Did we illustrate it at the open house meeting?
We couldn't illustrate it on their panel.
On their panel, but it was,
We had it two
Yeah.
times where any individual could
But
look at it.
all of the public didn't know it was there because they didn't allow us
they
to
didn't
tell
allow
the
us to put
public.
it up.
Okay, and one other thing too is to remember that B is the only one out of these three choices that allows us an entrance, the public to have an entrance to the park should anything else fail.
In its current form, I guess.
But what I'm asking is not the one that we drew. I'm wanting to know that the one that the DOT presented at the meeting.
They didn't show us
Is
it.
that B?
That was C, actually.
C. C is what they actually presented.
Yes, they did not have a signal, and they did not have a roundabout in their general plan. They had a roundabout
It's a
as a
separate
possible
At the
alternate.
public hearing over here at the school.
Yes.
They had C and A,
Well, they had C, but A was,
on the side.
A was something to look at as a
Possible alternate.
possible alternate, but not part of the existing plans now.
That's correct.
Yeah, the existing lines just shows, some
C.
improvements made on C. It shows some improvements made on Doris, is what it's showing. And at the time, these were done, Alexander Park, I would think, was under the, GDOT wasn't aware of Alexander Park as a major park system, and with an intersection, with an entrance point where Doris Street currently tees in that area.
So, to the DOT, if we don't make any changes, which one, A, B, or C, which one represents what the DOT is proposing?
Right now,
C.
it's C.
And
Mayor, I have a question. It's just information.
Go ahead.
Information for me. Frederick, when did GDOT draw those plans? What year?
So we,
Okay, so that was after the process started. What year? Well, let me ask Councilperson Nolly. When did we start plans for Alexander Park?
2000 and,
Y'all purchased it December '05.
Oh, see that I'm just having a challenge with how GDOT
they ignored it.
can draw plans and not include a major park system. I just, that's just like drawing plans in front of a business and then you just totally leave the business out. I don't understand how they can do that and it be legal. And that may not be totally germane to what we're talking about, but had they included Alexander Park in the plans, then we would be looking at them bearing the cost.
May have given you the wrong date, just looking at it right now, and making sure that's the correct date.
yes, June 6 to 8.
The park was in place and they were notified that the park was there.
Some of the information they used go back to 1984,
Yes,
and 1988.
but they were notified all along that the park was there. And there were conversations with GDOT and ARC back and forth about it and the review of the LCI. But they ignored it when they did the plans. That's why I brought it to everybody's attention last year. That we were about to embark and they still haven't done anything about it. So B is the only one though, should any other plans fail for an entrance. B is the only one that gives us the possibility of an entrance. And that's based on our own consultant's letter that is attached to this.
It's just so awkward. We have a roundabout today.
But that's
We have
perfect.
signalized, intersection B, and then we have neither. It seems, I mean, it's
Well,
just,
their plans have nothing on it.
yeah, that's,
Their plans have nothing on it. And we could go with that, saying, okay, we accept the fact that your plans have nothing. Or if we want them to do anything beyond the nothing, we have to decide which one actually gives us an entrance to the park. Which one truly gives us an entrance to the park, should all other possibilities fail. Meaning the farmer's property. Should any other possibility fail, you have to decide the one that does give us an entrance immediately to the park, not 5 or 6 years down the road.
okay, Fred.
Okay. With Ms. Nardi's latest statement, yes, that is correct. The key is, as I drew the plans to show you all, the intersection is what we can do today with the signalization. GDOT, if we prefer to put a roundabout there, that recommends it going over, yes. That plan is going to be as part of the construction, which is not immediate. The project is slated to let in 2016, 2018. So you've got a gap between the construction of the trails on the property and the access to those trails by the public. The key is, if you want an immediate access onto the property, one of the things we have to do is basically fix the intersection with Doris. We have to put it right there with Doris Street. And the reason for that is because to just put an entrance there, as we know, creates a sight distance issue for anybody that's making a left-hand turn to the eastbound. You can't see as you make that turn coming out. That's the problem. The only way to improve that is through a signalization that stops traffic, that allows everybody to make left motions, go straight, or make a right turn without competing with traffic. But if you just left it as just putting an entrance there, GDOT will not approve a curb cut on our property as it currently stands without making some improvements, and that improvement is an intersection, which would be big, yes. That we can try to accomplish immediate, that still has to go through the permitting process with GDOT. And that's the temporary plan, recognizing that what we're asking GDOT to do in this letter, if A is your answer, is that all things being equal, if they choose to want to do a roundabout in that intersection, we want it just further west of where current plans actually show. If GDOT doesn't accept that and they just want to do or approve an intersection, the intersection will be
Signalized
as where we are. But the key is you have two things in play here. You gotta have access to the trails, if I'm not mistaken, are complete as of this week.
The concrete has been completed. The landscaping.
So now you've got trails and that'll be walked on. The problem is the public don't have an access to get to it. And so the most immediate way of being able to make that happen is to utilize our property just west of the current property, come down, which lines up with Doris Street. We're asking for a permit with GDOT now to utilize that as a temporary measure, recognizing that if this council wants a better gateway entry into our city, as we put in this clause, that terminus, whether it should be a roundabout, then if that's the choice, we want that roundabout further west. At a minimum of 8.
We talking about A?
8, yes. Yeah. So, yes, immediate access, as Ms. Nardi said, B. Now, but I think that B is already in place. If I'm not mistaken, from the last discussion we had with GDOT, they wanted us to do some traffic warrants and some other things to be able to put the entrance, and I think you were working on that for them. I think with that in mind, if you just want a regular old intersection there, fine, if GDOT approves it, that's cool, that's just another intersection along our gateway. If you want something that makes a statement about where we are, a roundabout typically doesn't, but that's up to you.
But here's still the rub. We have SPOS 3 money that's being spent to build trails that are going to be open to the public long before GDOT ever starts any construction. And then after it starts construction, you're looking at a 2-year process at least. So we have to be able to be good stewards and be able to open the park for public use. So if we don't put in there that we would be willing, we will a red light, and something happens to our other alternative, then we are stuck with not being able to open to the public. Here's something I would like to suggest. Could we put that, Mr. Gardner, you're always Solomon, could we possibly put that our first choice for getting into the park would be the red light to allow immediate access? And our second would be the, for improvement to our gateway, would be the roundabout. If funding is available through them, 80 feet further west, so it doesn't impact the businesses. 80 feet further west of Doris Street, is that correct?
A minimum.
A minimum of 80 feet west. So if we put those two together like that, then we are covered.
All right, Fred.
Can you read that back?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, so we'll actually, A and B,
Together. That just covers us.
Do y'all want me to read that back?
if you got it,
Gail, see if this is what you said. For item number 2, to put the first choice to have a red light to allow the immediate access as the first choice. Second choice is a roundabout if funding is available with a minimum of 80 feet west of Doris.
It would be, yeah, well, it's
Go ahead,
not a
Fred.
second choice,
All
it's
right, this is what I got.
to allow immediate
This
access.
is what I've got. Looking at combining A and B.
All right.
Is to allow, request the GDOT allow immediate access onto Alexander Park. So the city wishes to allow, to the city request the GDOT allow immediate access into Alexander Park via a signalized intersection. However, the city's long-term preference is an improvement to this intersection via a roundabout that would be at least 80 feet west of the current GDOT concept design.
That's A.
That's A and B.
Well, what happened?
B was covered in the first half where we want the immediate intersection via signalization. And the second half of that is the preference, the overall preference long-term of a roundabout 80 feet west of the current.
Minimum of 80
put
feet
west.
Minimum.
Of 80 feet west of the current roundabout as designed by GDOT and their concept.
Or 80 feet west of what? Of Doris Street.
Yeah, to say the
Correct design.
the existing
Concept.
okay, what's your pleasure, folks? Are we all on board with,
That
Right.
covers us.
I'd like to see a signalized intersection which is B, at North Street, but put back on there as an option.
Say again?
Well, that's what it is.
It
That
is.
It is.
It's immediate short term.
But you tied it to the roundabout.
Say again?
But you tied it into the roundabout, so if you vote for A, you gotta vote for the roundabout.
Long term.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
long
So
term.
what we're saying is, short-term access to
Short
Alexander
term.
Park,
right,
we wish that to be accomplished through a signalized intersection. However, the city's overall preference, long-term, is a roundabout 80 feet west of the, at least 80 feet west of the current GDOT design. That's what we're trying to do.
Proposed design.
okay, one more time,
Mr. Mayor,
Excuse me.
No, I don't
Oh,
have
I'm
a
sorry.
question, I'm just supporting.
Do you get it, right?
And Roger, all of that'll be moot if we get the other scenario taken care of.
Yes.
So are we doing yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, only yes.
You got it?
I still don't get it, when this kind of money's involved.
So you,
But it's not our money.
no vote, okay, that's good.
Whoa.
Six,
Six to one?
that's right, on item number 2. Fred, do you have anything else on that?
That's it. My next one is, removal of median illustrated between Dollar Street and Norfolk Southern Railway track.
Plan
As illustrated on GDOT's plans and drawings.
Okay, and then the second is B.
And B is to keep medians as illustrated on by GDOT between Doris and.
All right, those that support, number A, removal of median illustrated, that would vote yes, signify the raising
That
hand.
takes care of all of our businesses and everything.
That's unanimous.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
All right. All right, let's move down, Fred, continue on, please.
Number 4, to include the east-west terminus roundabout at Postmaster Drive of the one-way pairs. Number B, to include the east terminus roundabout as an item for GDOT to investigate at a later date if funding becomes available.
Okay. Under item number 8, to include, those that would vote yes.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Does that change our scope?
Yes.
By adding
A changes the scope.
Big time.
B is the only way we can.
Right.
B gives an option up to GDOT to investigate if funds becomes available. So you need them.
C, folks.
Do we want to raise our hands?
B.
One more time.
B.
It's 7-0, I think, Janice.
Okay.
sir.
And number 5 is
The last one?
Number 5 and the last one is to include having GDOT make the necessary improvements of curb and gutter and stormwater facilities along Jonesboro Road from the square to the railroad track.
Those that vote yes?
And the question, and this is Jonesboro Road or Jonesboro Street?
It's street.
No, I guess, yes, when it comes to it, it changes the street, I'm sorry.
It's street. And also, you know, did they show on those plans sidewalks going to the new entrance to Toby Springs, both leading to Hampton Street and to Jonesboro Road?
I think, if I'm not mistaken, Ms. Marisha, when that question was asked, said yes, but I'll double check.
Well, again, we don't want that to be an oops and they tell us we didn't, whatever.
Okay, folks,
Just a second, he's got to check about sidewalks.
Yes, sidewalks are on here.
so Fred,
In both directions,
There's
Jonesboro
sidewalks.
Street and to Hampton.
There's sidewalks along across the train tracks, coming eastbound on the, what we call the switchback. There's sidewalks all the way along, up to the intersection, that allow for you to switch back over. There's sidewalks on one side of the street that look like it ties into the existing sidewalk system. There's no sidewalk on the on the westbound side of Jonesboro Road. Sidewalks only on one side of the switchback. And to Toby Springs,
They haven't, crossed the railroad track to the intersection, I know, but I don't know.
But
if
see,
they did.
Toby Springs to their entrance, and for them to be able to come out of the entrance and walk freely to Hampton or freely over to Jonesboro Road, because these people are already being locked in and they shouldn't be. And that's gonna be a nightmare for Mr. Hurd.
okay, there's sidewalks on both sides of the Toby Springs entrance. Sidewalks coming, if you come to the switchback and you come south, as you come towards Toby Springs on the new road, there's sidewalks on the western side that ties into Toby Springs. There's sidewalks on the south side of the Toby Springs into the new connector that goes to highway towards 2081.
Okay.
Mr. City Administrator, can you just take a picture of that with your phone and send it to me, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, Fred, you prepared to go and put this right together?
Yes,
and
sir.
sign before everybody leaves tonight?
Yes, sir.
Get it to DOT.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Fred. Great job. Thank you, council, for your patience here as we go through this. Is a long process. It has just been 18 years. It's time for us to move. Hopefully, we'll have something done one of these days fairly soon, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna be very, very brief, about the budget. I gave you all copies, and I'll tell you the changes that I've made, in it. The total moved down from 660 to 645, 845. The governing body is still a 39,900 reduction. We eliminated the administrative, the balance there, virtue of the fact that, it's still a sizable number of months to set up contingencies. We moved down to finance, and we've got to add 3,000 for benefit audit that we've talked about in the past. So that reduces that down to 68,000. On the next item, building maintenance, we've already discussed. That has to do with property. Move down to traffic control, 2 officers that we had hoped to hire by 10-1. We had to move up to 115, and that increases that. Firefighting has not changed. Planning and zoning, folks. We had a planner we had hoped to have in here by November 1, and that didn't happen. We put it, rescheduled it to 1/1/15. On the building department, we have a permit coordinator that we had hoped to have in by 11/1. We moved that to 1/15, and that's the reason the modification changed there. And the last one is Main Street. We just made a little adjustment in her position. She came at 10 October 1, well, actually a few days in that neighborhood. It works out to 25. The last item is debt services, which we have not changed, and of course that deals with the court facilities. Having said that, as I view it, ladies and gentlemen, to balance from 4.997 rate down to what we are sanctioned was 4.375, it takes $419,679. We've dropped the revenue, we've dropped the expenses, and we've balanced out again at 419,679. It took that to balance it. However, now we ended up with $645,845. So we have an overage, and you shouldn't call it an overage. It's an increase in our fund balance of $226,166 that we can utilize for some certain things for the future. As we look at the, let's see if I've got it. Tim, I left it downstairs. I can tell you what it does. $331,689 is for July 1, 2015. If we fully fund the court, the fire personnel, the police personnel, is a total of $331,689 additional dollars. But if you take this increase in fund balance of 226, we are short, ladies and gentlemen, by 105,523. And of course, Lolita and I have had an opportunity to go over all of these. As you'll recall, I met with the department heads, and we considered this along with 2 of the council members. So we've had the staff involved pretty much along the way. But Lolita and I met Wednesday and came back Thursday, and she has indicated or listed all these changes, which should be exactly what I've said. And she may have a comment or 2 about, the future, what happens next year, July 1, who knows? But to the best of my knowledge, based on what I see, and the 105 shortfall we have, using that increase in our fund balance, I want to add 2 additional things for that, and I'm not going to talk about it tonight, but I will on December 4th when we actually you'll consider whether you want to vote for this or not, this budget amendment. But Lolita and I have talked, and she'll probably have some comments relative to the increase in millage rate. My increase is from 1/2 of a mil to 5/8 of a mil, and we can accomplish not only the deficit of 105, and I know I'm talking fast, but add 2 additional pieces here that I'll discuss with you on the floor. So Ms. Lolita, I know you want to share some more information with them relative to our discussion and any thoughts you have. But it's coming next year. There's a lot of things to consider, that we'll be doing. But this is just keeping everything in focus as we know what to do.
Mayor, before Lolita starts, it's very difficult for me to follow numbers verbally. And I don't know if anybody else has that challenge, but I'm just admitting a weakness of mine.
No, that's not a weakness.
I'm just wondering if maybe staff could assist with giving us a document that's easier to read, because all I see are edits made by Leslie and things that are highlighted, and I want us to continue to move forward in a progressive way in terms of the information that we receive financially. And so if we can just put this in a format where we can make a decision and not just, be confused, because I'm real confused right now.
That's fair enough. Go ahead.
Okay, to address that, I'll give you something I've already
Thank
got
you
a
very
summary
much.
sheet on that.
Good.
But one of the things I wanted to say, I guess, is that I calculated that we would have, if we make all of those changes, and we mentioned the $418,000 reduction of revenue this year, this is basically a one-time fix. The white elephant in the room is that next year you got to fund these positions. If you go next year, you're looking at roughly a $216,000 deficit. And also, again, I have to continue to bring up here, I'm sorry, the budget analyst. We still need to make sure that we consider that, because that's something that we really want to do with the budget process. And then when we're looking at next year, if we keep everything the same, if we collect the same amount of taxes, we don't change our millage rate, I calculated you're looking at a tax increase. That tax increase will be about 6.2%, because you have to look at your rollback. So when you take your rollback into consideration, we're basically looking at a 6.2% increase, and I'm just doing 8%. If you look at your property values increasing roughly 8%, this year we did roughly almost 15% in our tax digest. So I cut that in half, so you're really looking at roughly about an increase in taxes that you're going to have to address next year regardless. If everything stays the same, there's no increase in the budget, there's no increase in the millage rate, you're going to have a rollback. And the rollback is going to be a tax increase.
Yes, Fred, go ahead. Yes.
And Mayor, I just want to say this as you look forward, and I know that I won't want to be sitting in that chair, but I share the concerns of this, is that what's happening is a one-time fix, and you're looking at continuous costs when you add personnel. That's a continuous cost as you fund them, whether they're here or not. As long as they're in the budget, you can't half them, you gotta put them in there for a 12-month period moving forward. And the problem that I see here is that we're also gotta take into account some of the contractual things that we're putting in place that we're not looking at. And one is, you're taking on 4 miles of landscape improvements whenever you decide to take to that contract that we've signed comes to fruition. You're also adding a new park system, 120-acre park system that has to be maintained by the city. You'll be adding another 7 acres of property to your graveyard. You'll be adding another 23-acre park. These are things that you have to look at in the very near future. And the key is, how do you fund those things moving forward in light of technically creating a structural deficit in your outlying budget years? That's my main concern. How do you address that? Because at some point, your staff, your public works staff can't continue to do the work they're doing, and you're adding more responsibilities to them. They're not going to be effective at it. And I just want to make sure that's my concern with the way the numbers are running, is you're looking at continuous costs that are being half this year, but going to come in full year. To take the savings that you're going to get in this year
and applying them into next year, you're still technically operating in a structural deficit position because you're now using fund balance to balance your budget. The other elephant in the room is if you're transferring $1 million from the water fund, who's gonna pay it back in rent? And if that's just gonna be a loan or a gift from the water fund to the general fund to make that happen. At some point, this community grew by 160% in the last census period. Okay, you tripled the amount of people that you had in 2000, which is more than what you did from 90 to 2000. So that number just exponentially goes. You're growing right now at a 3.9% rate based on census data. If that continues, where will you end up? You have to be, somewhere down the line, you have to ask yourself, how do we continue to provide the service, the quality level of service to the people on Lawrenceville Street as we provide to the people that live in Avalon? Because whether you've been here 10 years, 100 years, or 1 year, you're guaranteed the same rights when you move to McDonough. And that level of service shouldn't change based on where you are, how long you've been here. That's something that I've always said to y'all, you've got to look at down the road. And how do you continue to do that? And where the revenues come from to be able to provide that quality level of service, recognizing. I think we boxed ourselves in this year, to be honest. But that can be fixed. That discussion has to be made with the citizens. And you truly have to recognize that you have over 24,000 people that call McDonough home. And when the decision is made, it can't be made on the fact that you hear from 20 people.
Right.
And you're absolutely right, Fred. Next year is next year. And you've got those district concerns. I'm not addressing those district concerns all the time. I'm just trying to get us to where we are today. But that's something the council will have to consider, all those improvements that you just talked about, valuable improvements and are sorely needed. So go ahead, Ms. Lorraine.
One last item that we
Yes,
have down
ma'am.
here, we decide to transfer the money from the water fund, we have to identify it as either being the transfer, or we have to say that it's going to be paid as a loan.
That's right.
So whatever decision is made, we have to document that because it will come up $20.
And you're absolutely right about it, and hopefully on December 4th, we'll either vote this up or vote it back. Yes, any questions?
Yes, and as we go forward with next year and facing the possibility of not the possibility, but the actuality of needing a tax increase, we really do need the things that he was outlining. We really do need to get a grip on those, and I will tell you this, that Mr. Dickerson, along with Rodney, has been working very diligently for us to get everything together on Jonesboro Road, down to the fact that Mr. Dickerson's been out counting plants and documenting every plant and every island. And when we get all of our information together, we will be going to the county manager to bring him up completely up to date and the status there, and then try to determine when the county will ask GDOT to inspect, so that we can then decide when we're going to ask GDOT to release so that the city takes it over. So whether it'll be in the 15-16 budget or whether it'll be in the 16-17 budget, so that we, Public Works will be able to tell you what additional equipment, people, whatever it is that we're going to need. And we're going to, have an accurate accounting of that. And we're going to do that within the next 2 months.
Go ahead, Ms. Wolf. Thank you so much, appreciate that. And we'll,
Mayor, I have a
yes, go ahead.
comment, and I think it's
Go ahead.
very, very important. Budget decisions are difficult. Our budget is the greatest policy that we will ever create. It's an essential policy. Our citizens didn't ask us to roll back the millage rate. They just asked that we did due diligence in making sure that we had cut back in every possible place. We checked with our staff, and our staff said that we had already gone through about 6 months of cutting back, and there just wasn't anything to cut. And I think based on the document that we have before us, we see that there was a great deal of validity to what staff was telling us. Not only was there not money to cut, but we now find ourselves having to borrow from our water fund. So I think as we move forward, and we have boxed ourselves into a corner, as we move forward, we have to be concerned about 1 year's impact on the next year. We cannot look at our years in silos, because what we do today will in fact impact tomorrow. And as a citizen, I think all our community really, really wants from us is for us to be able to give them sound and concrete information to support the decisions that we have to make. That's another reason why I thought the presentation today was such a great thing, because that level of transparency will help us as we move forward in making budget decisions and providing them with information. There are a lot of things that we're going to have to do next year that haven't even been mentioned. And I'm concerned that if we continue to do what we did this year, then what we'll end up doing is finding ourselves at some point in the future having to make a major tax hike, and that's not what any of us need to do.
Thank you.
I want to make a statement.
Yes, go ahead, Roger. Yes, sir.
The millage rate was cut 200s. Property values went up 15%. To me, that represents a raise. We receive more money because the property values go up. We cut the millage 200s. It's like we cut the millage 2 or 3 mills. We cut it 200.
And look at the budget. I don't think it's the amount that was cut is the issue. The issue is that we're still in a deficit because we didn't. If we had allowed the millage to stay where it was and not done the political thing by rolling the millage back, we would not be in the deficit that we are. We didn't have to increase. All we needed to do was to stay where we were.
We keep spending. That's the reason we're in the shape we're in.
Okay, Roger, thank you. I think that the vote, as I recall, was 4-3,
And I was one of the dissenting votes.
So, appreciate those comments. Having said that, no unscheduled comments?
No, sir.
No,
Thank you.
none.
Ms. Carl, I know you've been here a long time too, and I've been watching you. It's time for you to come to the podium and share with us about the city administrative hiring process that you have shared with us. I've got something in my file. Go ahead.
Right. Remember, the mayor and council requested the process that we have used in the past when we were hiring a city administrator. You were also asking for a copy of the job description. I included that in your packet. I included a copy of the previous job announcement we used. And then it was relayed that you wanted some information regarding a headhunter, the possibility of using a company. So I did a little research on that. Now, I was at a conference last week, so I just prepared it today and received some of the information today. So if there are some questions that you all have, I'm sure, and you're just now looking at it, I'll answer any questions you have now.
Ms. Gill, go ahead.
I don't know, it's so much a question as, I think the city has grown to the point that when we put out a job description, that we as a council number one, have agreed on exactly what it is that we are looking for. That we have also determined at the same time, when we're asking what we're looking for, we have determined what we're going to ask of that person, how they're going to perform for us. We're putting that in writing. And then that which how we're asking them to perform, then moves forward to be the document that we utilize as a means of evaluation. So there is a very clear picture of who, what we're hiring, for what purpose. That we know exactly what we expect. We don't say we expect them to communicate. We have got to be better than that. We've got to say how we expect communications to occur. And when we do that, then we really are putting together what will then become an evaluation document. And that is consistency, and that is real understanding by all of us up here about what we expect, from the person sitting in the administrative position. And I believe all of us could feel good about moving forward if we really do our due diligence to that degree. As far as the process, once we've done this, as far as the process of coming in, I need to look over our process the way we did it before. But if we know what we're expecting, if we can communicate to these people in interviews, that becomes our question. How do you communicate? If we've already decided how we expect somebody to communicate with us, then when we ask a question, then the interview becomes relevant. Okay? I'm sorry.
Carla, thank you for being here tonight. Sorry it's been so long. But what is your opinion? Do you feel it's best to do an in-house or a headhunter, or do you have an opinion? And have you been part of both sides? I know you've been part of the in-house side.
Right. I've not been part of an organization that used a headhunter. I did ask some colleagues at my conference last week about that. So there are pros and cons to it, and you'll see there are some that say that we liked it, the process. We gave up some stuff to do it that way. And then we had others that said, we feel like we get just as good a candidate pool doing it the way that we've done it in-house than we got from a headhunter. So it depends. Headhunters will go outside of the state of Georgia, although I guess you could set your criteria with them, I guess, when you come to an agreement on what you want. So it would just be something we'd have to ask some of the companies that we contact if that's the direction that the council wants to go.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
And Carla, thank you, because I know you have a drive. In terms of announcing the position, I know that there are some varying concerns that different members of council have relative to the position and what the position, or how the position will act, conduct itself, whatever. But in terms of making the actual announcement and starting the process, I see a copy of the job announcement, and there's nothing in the announcement that outlines anything other than the requirements that we've requested for educational purposes. Is there anything that would prevent us from announcing the position? Because my concern is, and this concern goes to my colleagues as well, is that we don't have a transition plan in place. Our city administrator is leaving. We have not officially announced the position. We don't have any candidates that are kind of waiting in the wind. And so that's going to put us in a scenario where we're going to basically have to rely on the mayor and department heads to run the city. And so that's concerning for me in that we do have a population of greater than 20,000 individuals, and I don't want anything anything to happen that will put us behind. Everything should be moving forward. So in terms of an announcement, can we go ahead and announce the position, or are we going to have all of this criteria in place before we make the announcement?
We need to have everything in place.
And I see your answer is yes. So I would imagine that we would need somewhat of some type of guidance, somebody to hold us accountable, because we need a timeline for this. So is there any way that as a council we can authorize Carla, I'm sorry, my voice is going in and out, but authorize Carla to basically stay on us to get the information that she needs in order to move forward, because this does not need to linger?
Right. I mean, the initial decision would be, do we want to entertain a company to do this for us, or do we want to do it in-house again? And the process, if you go in-house, can be changed. I listed what we've done in the past, but different cities do it a variety of ways. So if the council, mayor and council want to entertain a different process in-house, that's perfectly fine. We just need to know what it is, what you all would like to do.
But you need to know if it's in-house or out-of-house first.
First thing we need to know is if
And we need to have a discussion, and we need to have enough information on the headhunter brings to the table.
Well, I personally support having this done in-house.
Right.
And I'm finding having somewhat of a comical moment, because I'm looking at the job description and the way that we posted it, and I'll have to say to our city administrator that, everything on this document you completed. So all of the challenges that we had relative to different things in terms of who would do what, you fulfill your obligations. So I thank you very much for that. I will advise this council, now that there are all these conversations about whether or not the mayor is the chief executive officer, or whether or not he is responsible for the day-to-day operations, or whether or not it's the city administrator that implements the policies that we've decided on. And we need to have some conversation about how we roll this out, because I don't want to find ourselves in a situation where we've got a bunch of ambiguity going on and the person who's here doesn't know what they're supposed to do. I mean, we've had arguments about where staff is going to be housed and who makes that decision. And that should never be a discussion.
Anything else?
Yes.
Go ahead.
That is basically what I was saying, that we need as a council to agree on how things will function.
Councilperson Nadi, I think it's more than that. If this is based on the charter, then there's going to have to be some legal involvement as well, and that's what I've been.
I'm not saying that it shouldn't be legal involvement. I'm saying it, whatever needs to be done, we need to have a real honest discussion about exactly that, so that the new person coming in, or as well as mayor and council, are not butting heads over, decision-making or things of that nature, to try to take that out of the mix and have it as clean cut as possible. And until we sit down as a mayor and council and go through that, I don't know how we're going to get there.
I have a question for Lee.
Yes.
Lee, have you taken a look at the major duties and made sure that they align with the charter?
No, I have not, but I will make sure that I do that.
Okay.
And I would like to add that anytime we have a job opening, it's always an opportunity to look at the job description and revise it, and we do that in our departments. And this is the opportunity to take that job description and switch it and make it what you want it to be the most accurate, which is what you want. You want to communicate through the job description what your expectations are and what the job would be. So this is an opportunity.
And that's really all I'm asking for, is exactly what Councilperson Barner just asked for, because I mean, it just gets to the point where it gets ridiculous.
Anything else?
Obviously, they were able to articulate what I was trying to say. and I certainly appreciate them doing that.
Paul, do you have anything additional?
I'll be waiting for your instructions.
Anybody have any problem with that? Thank you, Paul. Thank you so much. Lee?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
there's been a question by somebody in the, out here in the public. They didn't see or hear our vote on item 5 for Mr. Fred. Vote yes or no on item 5 to include having DOT. Do you mind, can we show that vote again since somebody in the audience questioned that?
That if we voted on item number 5,
It's 7-0.
Well, that's what I know, but,
yeah, we did.
but they said.
It was my question, Mayor, it was my question, after talking about the sidewalks there on item 5. That I was unclear on your vote, is all.
We voted for number 5, but I asked him to clarify to make sure that it was
Yeah,
there.
and I thought you were holding it until they clarified and
Thank you, though.
Madam Attorney, do you have anything while Fred's catching his letter?
Mayor, I will take a look at the job responsibilities on that. I will send out what I feel to be a revised version consistent with the charter. And I'll tell you, it'll be consistent with that memo that I drafted not too long ago on the same points. So that's what it'll cover. It won't be any different from that.
Do you have anything else, Madam?
No, sir, that is all I have.
Madam City Clerk?
If anybody else is going to Mayor's Day, I've only gotten very few, registrations, so I need those by December 1 to get the reduced rate. Thank you.
And, Ms. Janice, did we ever decide whether we are going to expend funds for staying there, or whether we're just going to travel back and forth?
Mr. Mayor, what did you decide with the budget cuts and all?
We cut out X number of dollars, and we have ample dollars. It's just, I think it's just like it's been in the past. The ones we want to mute, fine, and those others, I think the money's that. It is that. We only spent $2,475 so far this year. But that's a decision you make. Use some come, some go. But I don't see any change in that.
Okay, well, then there's money available if you'd like to spend it.
Mr. Miller, Fred still, Mr. Pruitt, Councilman Pruitt, go ahead.
Well, I just want to thank Fred for his service.
Well, I
don't believe there's anybody in the chair there.
No,
He's making a few revisions to
Yeah,
that letter. We
he's
looked at it.
We'll
There's all
give
changes.
you a
You're
chance.
back.
Well, I certainly appreciate Fred's service the last few years. I've only worked with him for about a year, but he's been really nice to work with.
Well, as,
Go ahead, Cam.
you said,
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to just say that I enjoyed Frederick as
don't you
well.
think you ought to be in here to hear it?
Oh, yeah,
I really think you ought to be able to hear it.
Well, I don't have anything, sir. I'm just ready for home.
Does anybody have any other comments
They
outside?
have to put it in the
Complimentary.
card.
Thank you, Fred.
Well, one, I think the square looks wonderful for Christmas as it's approaching. And I don't think we could have had a better fall festival with the scarecrows. I mean, everybody from everywhere was just complimenting us on that.
Y'all be patient with us momentarily. Fred will hopefully be back and then sign off, and everybody can leave here after the call to adjourn.
Also, if you would please be thinking about your appointments for PC, HPC, BOZA, because we would like to make those at the December 15th meeting, if at all possible, so Tim and Robbie will have them to go in January.
Send us a memo.
I'll send you, and I'll send you the present appointees.
Mayor, while we're waiting, I'll give an update to council for this week. We have this Georgia pageant, you mentioned it earlier. 120 contestants total is what we'll have here. Today, we were notified that all 4 major hotels, the Holiday Inn, Hampton, the new Hampton Inn, the Hilton, and the Comfort are completely booked from tomorrow to Sunday. And they are referring people now, the Best Western is 75% full. So we're gonna have a packed house from Tuesday to Sunday, and the new manager of the Hampton Inn actually called me and wanted to know what was going on because they're brand new, and this is historically for hotels the worst week in the hotel business. The week before Thanksgiving, because everybody's traveling next week. So she wanted to know what was the deal. So we think it's gonna be a big deal, and if anyone's coming, we look forward to seeing you there. And the volunteers that we have locally have just been great. And while I got a minute, I gotta thank Keith. I'm struggling through the mud the last week or so helping with this pageant. I appreciate all the help you've done.
Okay, Mr. Garden.
Mayor, I wanted to ask you a quick question. You mentioned earlier an event on Friday at Eagles Landing, something to do with the city, Thursday night. What is
It's
that
not the
event?
city, it's production company. It's not general.
Oh,
It's the production company that puts on the pageant.
Oh.
It's their
They just invited me to run.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Gardner, you got something for us to sign?
Yes, sir, Mayor. This is the I guess you'll let my section?
Yep.
Okay. Right. Well,
You want to just put it on the overhead and we can
Yep.
see it on our
all right,
screen?
great.
And then it allows us to run and read it.
All right. And let me know if y'all concur with what you read. It basically
You
says,
want to read it out loud, just read it?
yes, ma'am. Per your request, please allow this correspondence to serve as the city of McDonough's notice of its unanimous support of the GDOT's Alternative 1 for the construction of the one-way pair roadway improvement project. In addition, and in consideration of the input received at the Public Information Open House held on October 9th, 2014, the city also asked for GDOT to consider the following additional items. GDOT allow the immediate access of the Alexander Park via signalized intersection at Doris and Jonesboro Road temporarily. However, the city of McDonough prefers that the western terminus of the one-way piers project incorporates a roundabout at least 80 feet further west than that illustrated on the GDOT concept designs shown at the Public Information House as the long-term solution. Second one, GDOT shall investigate the removal of the concrete medians illustrated on the concept plan between Doris Street and the railroad track. Next one, GDOT shall investigate the potential for a roundabout at the eastern terminus of the one-way pairs with Postmaster Drive if the funding becomes available in the future. And last, GDOT shall include making the necessary stormwater improvements, curb gutter facilities along Jonesboro Street. Jonesboro Road from the square. They should look at that, correct? Anyway, all the way through. Right? So you do Jonesboro Road. I'll make that necessary change real quick if you all want me to. From the square to Norfolk Southern Railroad. I think that captures it when you say between the square and the what that means. If there are any questions concerning concerns regarding this request by the city, please don't hesitate to contact us. Does that fully incorporate what everybody was envisioning? If so, there is space available for everybody to sign as I speak up. Mayor Pro Tem, at large, and then each of the other forwarding positions for a total of 7.
If you want to go change that, these can be signed in this one.
Do y'all want me to change it from Jonesboro Road to Jonesboro Street?
I think you explained it well from square to the tracks. I mean,
And I will email that to the GDOT officials tonight before.
You just pass the pen down and you use the same here.
Cleveland.
smart to get this done.
I'm sorry.
I'm starting right at night, folks.
Been a long day.
Oh, man, I could go for a good mayor sandwich right now. Half of one anyway. I don't want to care about that stuff.
You guys finished?
Got it.
Councilman Pruitt, give you a chance.
I want to thank you for working with you. You've been great to work with. I appreciate all your help. Good luck in your class.
Ms. Camp.
Yes, Frederick, I would like to wish you well on your endeavors. It has been such a pleasure to work with you over the past 3 years. You've been not only transparent to the community, but you've been transparent to us council members as well. I've learned a lot from you over the past 3 years. And again, I can't appreciate you enough. I'm pretty sure that you're doing more than an awesome job in East Point, and I think it is a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, thank you, Fred, for bringing us to this higher level we've been in the government. You've been great, taught us a lot. Yeah, Pro Tem.
Well, like the mayor, he always has a nice little story, anecdote to tell. Being a member, born and raised in the First Baptist Church, over the years, we had First Ponce de Leon and First Baptist Church that would come to our church, and we knew when they came, and sat on the first 2 rows, that our minister was going to leave us. My father said, you know, people are fussing about they're always taking our minister. And I look at it like this. We had really good sense because we were the ones that selected these ministers that have come. We show that we recognize really excellent qualities in the people that we choose. And I really believe that we as a council did that. Not only did we do that with you, Mr. Gardner, we did it with Justin, and through your help and your mentoring, you encouraged this council to change a title that allowed a young man to take the kind of courses that then gave him a springboard to become a city manager of his own. And you, while I think we took a leap of faith together when we hired you, you have brought a great deal to this city that will allow us to move forward to a future that I don't think any of us really thought we had at the time. You taught us a lot, and I hope and I pray that a lot of the lessons that were learned here are also the foundation that are now taking you forward to a great and bright future that I'm sure you will have. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Councilman?
Yes, sir. Well, I've only been here a year, but I really appreciate working with you and all you've done for the city. Even before being up here, I was thankful for things you had started and led, so can't thank you enough for that. I wish you and your family best of luck at East Point. I know you'll do well. I've also enjoyed your friendship, and I look forward to that to continue, so I hope that doesn't stop. And, you know, you've got my support, anything you need in the future.
Thank you so much. Ms. Benson? Yes, ma'am.
You have made me extremely proud, and I am very grateful to the level of excellence that you have brought to this position. I trust that the history books of the city of McDonough, our official records, will reflect that you have carried out your position in a level of professionalism that's not compromised,
There are things that this body has done which never should have been done to an executive level employee, and I'm sorry for those treatments. But you have always carried yourself in such a way that you never brought humility to this body, but you always carried us in a position of honor. And I appreciate you for that. History will not reflect that you went out on a pulpit and said that you were being treated unfairly and wrongly. You didn't say that. I'm saying it. But I thank you that you continue to carry yourself as a professional. You brought a standard to this city that had never been present before. You have carried us light speeds ahead. You have empowered the staff that you will leave behind to be excellent seekers and excellent executors. And I just trust that all of what you've done in the coming days will be continuously heralded as contributions which were made by you, and that will be your legacy. The technology, the financial innovations, the accountability, the service, the sense of empowerment for our employees, all of those are because of you. And I thank you, Frederick Gardner, for walking this journey with us in McDonough. Good luck and blessings to all that you do.
Thank you, Councilman. These are well-spoken words. What a great friend Fred has been to me, a personal friend of mine. He's so gifted, so intelligent. His lesson talks about technology and carrying us to new heights. I recall going back to 1987 when I was trying to decide here at City Hall if we needed a city administrator or a city manager. And I went to Georgia State on 3 occasions and talked to them. They said, "Good, I can assure you that a city manager would be out for the city, but a city administrator would be a good mix for the city of McDonough. However, you're not ready. You are not ready for a city administrator." They were certainly wrong on that point, Fred. But the point they were right about, they said, once you do establish this position here in the city, McDonough would be a perfect setting for somebody under public administration to get there. It'd be a stepping stone to greater things. And you are number 5, Mr. Gardner. Everybody that's left here has gone to bigger and greater things. Will you be missed? Absolutely. One of the most compassionate men I have ever known is Frederick Gardner. And I can't say enough good things about you and your family. I've been thinking about you and, of course, been praying for you and this new position. There's no question you're going to be successful. And as Elrod said, our friendship is not going to change one iota. I'm here for you. If I can be of any assistance, I wish you well. I wish your family well. And glory extends her best to you, Fred, tonight as you journey on to the city of East Point. And ladies and gentlemen, let's stand up and give this young man a round of applause. Having said that, we sign off on everything. Anybody have any additional comments?